Welcome back to Dialogue Choices on a exhausting week. But it's over.
What do you mean over? It's still Wednesday, right?
I mean, look, I'm gonna claim if you have a really big press conference in the parking lot of a landscaping company, I'm gonna consider your campaign over. That's it. You don't get to carry on being that was an option.
Pretty remarkable final note.
What a movie-esque ending. Like, there's no better way you could have written an ending to that if you wanted to. I love that.
It does feel like something from what's it called? Arrested Development.
Yeah. It's just it's very much just exactly what it should be, which is like just a cheap, garbage, rushed, unplanned mess.
What a headline! What a sentence to read. There's like Trump books the wrong Four Seasons for final press conference.
So that's what happened. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah. Also,
no, there's real sad pictures. It's pretty remarkable. There's a semicircle of reporters all standing around a podium that's sitting in front of just like what looks like an unfinished building. Basically, it's like one of those like brick warehouse style buildings that's like a shop door, and all of the paint on the walls in the area is like looks like it's half done being repainted or something, and like the shop door just has a bunch of Trump stickers in alternating colors on a grid to try to decor it up, because it just looks like a half constructed parking lot business area that it's just a nothing location.
It's just somebody's garage. It's just they're just standing there.
No, it's just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It is it's just a really crappy.
It's just one of those spots you see when you're walking somewhere and you take a shortcut.
Yeah.
You just see, place that you kind of remember when you'll remember it afterwards a bit, but you don't really know what it was. Like you're not totally clear on what that place was.
That's what it looked like. That was where that is where the literal president, the current president of the United States, had an announcement. I
wonder why they couldn't just do it at the White House.
Because it's campaign related.
No, because he went golfing. He left to go golfing, and this is the after effect.
Oh,
that could be as well.
So all he did was he was golfing, found out about losing, and we're going to have a big press conference. And so he's like, we're doing it at the Four Seasons Landscaping. And they're like, something must have gone wrong in the communication between Trump saying we're having a meeting at Four Seasons, them calling Four Seasons, and Four Seasons going, no, you're not. And then him going, shit, he deleted his tweet, then had to redo his tweet saying Four Seasons Landscaping, so he didn't look wrong.
So he had this whole shenanigan just to not look wrong on a tweet.
Yeah.
Oh my god, people can be so delusional.
And it's
I mean,
and so as you can see, they quickly rushed over there, rented a bunch of PA equipment, a podium, and put just a bunch of Trump 2020 stickers on the garage door. And Giuliani went up there and just rambled for
they had Giuliani. That's
he just rambled for 30 minutes about
cherry on top of the cake
about how courts decide elections, which that's not how that works. But
that's not how that works. Yeah.
For historical context, we are recording this on Sunday. Tuesday was election day, but of course the election was much muddier this time because
it was election week.
There was it was election week, which my sleep schedule did not enjoy.
Yeah, it turns out Nevada had all of their mathematicians leave the state before election day, so they just couldn't count for a week.
God, it's just been a week of just not sleeping well, and then even if I do sleep well, the day I just have like a cloud, and just the entire time, and I can't it was having it be, it's like there's just this fucking like sort of Damocles situation where it's just fucking hanging overhead, and that's all you can think about all the time, and I just want to get out from under that sword. So I had like multiple recording sessions where I tried to like pop in a game and be like, I should try to do work. I haven't done work in like 4 days, and I'm like, nope, still can't do work. Because I could either only talk about the election, or I would try to talk about something else and just keep blanking and like pausing for 30 seconds, not really saying anything. And it's like, I can't. I just
really that.
Yeah.
Was that consuming for you?
It just needs to end. The period just needed to end.
So once I vote, I have a very hands-off approach to everything, where like I did my part, and if it fails, all right, like that, I did my part. It's your guys' fault now.
We
like,
have
I don't have to.
Well, we kind of have different contexts, because on one thing, like socially, you've reduced connections significantly, and also have your whole outlook of like, fuck humanity, I don't give a shit about nobody, and it's like,
yeah.
So you kind of just do your job, and you watch your anime, and you hang out with your online friends, and it's like you engage socially exactly as much as you want to, basically.
Yeah, and I don't consider living in a place permanent. Like I will just leave.
Yeah, you've literally lived in a different country for months and so on.
Yeah, and so like being stuck is not a thing for me.
So for you, the election's more about the abstract a little bit, because it's just about the country as a concept and so on, and who's right and that argument. But for me, it's about the relationships I have with like, I don't know, like 30 people. And like the ways that the last 4 years have just been making my life worse all the time, essentially. And it's just this fucking question of like, is this gonna happen? Is this gonna happen? Like, do I have to fucking, is this gonna be like when I finished high school and then it dawned on me that college is just as long as high school at least? So while we're celebrating the ending of something, I'm actually starting something all over again, and maybe it'll be even more.
And it's even worse, because that's the one that scars you emotionally for the rest of your life.
And in my case, college was 5.5 years, so it was longer than high school. So like, I was totally right to be like, oh fuck, it's gonna be forever.
Well,
but
I say like it scars you, but the college tends to be harder than
college was so much better than high school.
Yeah, it
was an improvement. It was just the duration. It was just that moment of being on the cusp, because you're celebrating high school graduation, and then it's dawning on you that like, wait, I'm still coming back next semester. It's just a different school for the 4th time now, and like you don't know, and you don't have a respect for all the ways it'll change, because you won't know that until you're there. Like, oh yeah, like college is way more like weirdly open, and it's also like more enriching, and like the stuff you're doing feels like it respects you more and so on. And you also kind of weirdly have your own schedule and your own control of the whole thing, and do stuff, and you can be weird like me and be like, I'm gonna have like a 14-hour day on Tuesday and Thursday and have 5 days off a week. Which is a thing that I did. I just lived at college 2 days a week and then went home the rest of the week, which was good because I commuted and everything. But yeah, like I remember it was the year I started doing full-time YouTube. I was kind of having a good year of like, I broke free of my government job that was just draining and exhausting. So I worked at the water board, and I just did not want to deal with spreadsheets anymore. And it felt like I wasn't really even, it felt more and more like I wasn't even like a necessary component. Like I was just like a placeholder human until it gets automated out. And, but you know, I had a job because you have to get a job and so on. It's like I made this big leap into YouTubing where it's like, I'm going to do this thing that I've been doing for years, at that point for 5 years. And I'm going to like get more out of it, because you know, it's, if you can make it as a YouTuber, there's a lot of stresses related to like all the audience stuff and so on, but it's also really fulfilling in certain ways because it's about you and you made the thing. And if you're like on that level,
it's a creative outlet. It's basically like making anything else.
It's way more fulfilling than working retail, for example, which I'm speaking from experience, where you're just like a fucking cog in the machine, and the moment you vanish, they just replace you with another person, and they don't really even care if you quit, because treating you well is too hard. So they just treat you like shit until you go away, and then immediately replace you with like another person of the endless generation of young people that will do the shitty job that they hate until they quit and get replaced. So like it was a good leap, and I was having a good year, and then November rolled around, and the joke dude that I was like, there's no way, like there's been too many scandals. He's so clearly fraudulent and a liar and a scumbag, and he cares about nobody. He doesn't care about like integrity or like draining the swamp. He doesn't give a shit about actually trying to like improve the White House or any of that stuff. Like, he's clearly a con man. He wrote a book about basically being a con man, and he has a long history of being he's only known for business, but if you like just take the tiniest scratch on that fucking lottery ticket to get rid of the film, just the tiniest bit of effort, you're like, oh, he's a terrible businessman. He has a long history of running every single thing he's ever done into the ground. He kind of has no idea what he's doing and just kind of falls backwards. And he's like in that really bizarre territory of like too big to fail nonsense, where like he just can't run anything correctly, but because he's already successful enough, he can just keep taking things in stride. And like the endless, like hundreds of lawsuits his businesses were under don't matter. The bankruptcies don't matter. Like, he just kind of is like he broke through the canopy of American capitalism to the point where you just kind of like float there forever, and like the top of the tree has become the new floor, and seemingly nothing can ever really hurt you enough to actually make you live a real life that normal people live ever again.
Well, there's a thing that perfectly encapsulates what you're talking about. Whenever he is asked to release his tax returns, he says they're under audit. I'm sure you know what that means. He's being audited because he evaded taxes. Or he actually, no, I mean, it's worse than that. He actually got money from the state of, I think it's New York. They got like a few millions. And that's why he's under audit. So when he's saying, oh, I can't release them because I'm under audit, what he's saying is they think I stole from the state, so I can't release them. So it's so ridiculous that even his excuse is like pointing at the problem. It's been like 4 years of being gaslit all of a sudden, because there was this one guy that was the archetypical greedy capitalist, the scummiest man in all of America, like just despised and mocked because he looked stupid and he acted stupid and he wasn't even good at what he was doing, but he was also incredulously greedy and self-serving and just everything wrong with the supposed fat cat capitalist ideal. Not like in the cartoonish way too, like not like not like the deeply distressing reality of what some of the most powerful people in the world are actually not like but Koch instead brothers, the hilarious stupid cartoon man. Like, Donald Trump has been the butt of the joke for decades for being just the worst human being in the most naked way possible. But he allied himself with a particular team over the course of the last decade, and apparently everyone on that team just decided to forget everything they knew about him. White just pretend a hell of a drug.
And so like they buy into all this shit about how he's gonna drain the swamp, and then QAnon, and like he's this crusader for goodness and the best man in the history of the country all of a sudden. And it's like it was on that level, it was just shocking to deal with people that were this deluded and then have to continue to deal with them for what has now been like 6 years basically because of all the election stuff beforehand. But then on top of that, there was just that crushing feeling of like the impact of what he represented.
I think the impact of Facebook and social media has grown over the last 4 years to an extent that like it needs to be addressed somehow.
No, you know what? Here, I'm honestly the biggest problem. It's not even social media, because all social media does is connect people. Yeah, the people are the problem. Those are the fucking people that are doing the thing. It's not Facebook isn't going out there and saying bad things. People on Facebook are going out there saying bad things to trick other people into believing bad things.
But and the thing is, like when you had problems before where you found like, I don't know, a neo-Nazi club of people just being like, oh, we're really Nazis, talking to each other and just spreading that virus, right? They knew each other. They were like a few hundred or maybe 1,000 or something, and then somebody came in and it was okay. You can't be Nazis anymore. Shoo, go away. And so they break apart, and they wouldn't have necessarily the same connection with the internet. That happens, but for one, it's not localized, so it's a lot harder for you to pinpoint who or how you're going to be able to break them apart. But on the other hand, it's also so much easier, and like all you had to look at, and it scares me, honestly. You have to look at how the Facebook groups about stop the count or whatever. I think it was stop the count or keep counting. Well, I don't know. It was depending on the state.
Because both were happening at the same time.
Yeah. So they propped up thousands and hundreds of thousands of people in Facebook groups in a matter of days. And how can you stop that? Like, I think it's even.
So here's my question,
like
though. Then why the people who caused this mess, the people who are the final formed product of years and years of terrible education have not changed. Like the people who voted for Trump are not people I'm surprised voted for Trump. I've known that they're going to vote for Trump. I live with these people. I've grown up with these people. I know they're shitty people. Like, they've always been shitty people. The problem is that nobody calls them out on it. Like, you sit there at Thanksgiving and everyone jokes like, oh, that one uncle's like, no, you should literally beat that one uncle. Like, beat him until he stops saying the things that he's saying, because that's the problem, is that people are just silent. You're just silent about these problems. And then people I don't say anything to my family, who are very confusingly they're apolitical to the point of self-destruction. So they're like, oh, I don't care about politics, but I'm gonna vote. But when I do vote, I'm gonna vote with no thought in it at all. And it's like, what? Okay, great. And so then you see, then I can watch as some of those family members go on Facebook and say stupid political things, and I have to take a second and go, where the fuck did you see this? Because this information's wrong, inaccurate, and a lie. And then I have to backtrace and go, okay, so you watch this show and you do these things.
Dude, it's a fucking process trying to track down whatever bizarre conspiracy somebody found. Because the real answer is that they're in a bunch of weird Facebook groups that you can't search for or look into to find the thing.
Yep. Or they get targeted advertisement, which is another thing as well.
Yeah, I had the weirdest thing thrown my way, which was the idea that our governor started opening up California not because of the economy and other issues, but specifically he prioritized. The claim was that he specifically tried to open Napa first because his family has a winery there that was losing money, and then and then when people called him on that, he opened the whole state. But I kept trying to search for this conspiracy to even get one result about it, and I'm like, I can't fucking find it.
Keith? Please tell me, because two of my family members said the same thing.
So you've heard this? Did you also try to research it and couldn't find a single thing about it?
I was like, Gavin Newsom owns a winery and he wants to open Napa, but he doesn't care about COVID.
What is their
source? What the fuck is that? Who said that? Who said these things? Is this
an InfoWars thing? It's so weirdly hard to even Google the idea they're saying, and they can't. They always say it in a half-remembered, weird, vague ass thing.
Yeah, that's normal.
It's like fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where somebody would mention Tahiti or whatever, and Agent Coulson's like, it's a wonderful place, programmed, he just automatically says that. Whenever you mention the idea of any racism of any kind around Donald Trump, they always say, in the exact same words, oh, but he's done so much for black people. And then they never say more than that. And I'm like, what? I just want to know what you think you mean by that. Please. But they say pre-programmed lines that they just heard. And and part of it's you have your particular group of people that all agree with each other, and they just repeat these lines back and forth at each other. And so it's never questioned. So they never get a deeper layer than that. But it's just I'm like, what do you think that means? Because that was the big comeback during the protests and so on. It was just that they all fucking bulwarked up their shields and their phalanx formation and would just repeat the mantra, he's done so much for black people, over and over again. And you could never ever get any additional meaning from what they were even trying to say by that. And it's like, he's, what? Like he calls like Antifa and BLM like terrorist organizations. That's not doing great for black people. That's what he doesn't propose alternatives. He just reinforces the hateful systems that did all this and so on. But it's just, I could have never known how bad this was going to get.
He knowingly mocks and mocked the gravity of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in a way that is most likely related to how racially divided the victims of it are.
Because that's the thing is like I don't care about Trump. He's nothing. He means nothing. He is not. He's a symptom. He is literally, his existence has never changed, never deviated. He has been the same consistent piece of shit his entire life. The real problem is the fucking people who turned around and went, yeah, but he's a much better choice. No, you motherfuckers, how did you do that? How did you literally snap your necks into a position that looks like a pretzel just so you could justify the existence of this guy in the most powerful position of the fucking world? You seriously have to be maliciously you have to maliciously be doing this. You have to be spitefully selecting somebody to purposely get an end that you want, because you cannot accidentally go like, oh, well, he's just a better choice than Hillary. No, he wasn't. He was never. There is not a single person that was in line for being president in 2016 that would have been worse than Trump. It's not like Ted Cruz would have been a better president than Trump. Like, that's saying something. Ted Cruz is literally like...
because he's somebody that both doesn't know how to do a good job and also doesn't want to do a good job.
Exactly. He literally...
You could have not chosen a worse person to do the job. He's not... He doesn't check either box.
Actually, insofar as fascist, the authoritarian leaders go, it's good to have an incompetent one. Like, there's some silver linings to the cloud of incompetence.
I don't even... that's the thing. I don't...
Like, that was the other side of why it was so crushing, though. Is like, I did the preamble, which is just like my incredulity at the idea he could ever become president. But then once he did win, there was that crushing, distressing feeling that like all of those scandals, all of the things that came up, all of the horrible things he said, just horrible, horrible things, none of those mattered, or they were the goal. Because realizing that he had won, and that suddenly you have to look around and think, okay, about half of the people I see in my daily life, basically, let's be honest, less than half because California, but about half the people in this country are like, yeah, this is good. Either I'm just like actively filtering out basically every bad thing he does because all I care about is what color his team is, or I want the things he's saying, which is even worse, and you can't tell which one. And
I think the team aspect is very strong.
Fucking oscillate back and forth constantly.
That's not okay. Like, following orders isn't an excuse. Like, following your team isn't an excuse. You can't just go like, yeah, but he's not.
It's not about.
But I'm not going to vote.
It's just that's the person I'm used to.
No, I'm just saying, like, that's the thing that frustrates me, is that there is no excuse for him existing as president. There is no like, well, I followed party line. That's not an excuse. You literally maliciously tried to ruin a country.
There is
because of your ignorance.
There is no excuse, but there is an explanation though. Like, I mentioned it before.
But
like,
that's my problem.
The
that's
level of
what I'm worried about. That the explanation is there are people who either are willfully trying to ruin something, or they're so fucking stupid that they're willing to do whatever it takes just to feel a small satisfaction of victory, even if it comes at the cost of the thing that they claim to love so much. And it's like those are the
dying of plague to own the libs.
Yeah, but there's a middle ground between that, and I think like it's complicated to discuss just from the perspective that you're bringing right now. But when you're in a country that has the level of homelessness, for example, that the US has, or the wealth disparity, or not everybody has access to healthcare, or just I'm sure you could list things better than I can. We're in a country like that, and honestly, just in a world, but especially in a country, if you're not if you're lucky enough, if you're privileged enough to not feel those problems yourself, you're either preoccupied with making sure that those problems stop existing, or you're and obviously you can do, different people have different means to fight those sort of problems, or you're complacent, or you're okay with it, because there's no level where in a country where with slavery, for example, you get there are a lot of examples of people saying that's just how things are. That's just, they have slaves. What are we gonna do? Not buy their products or something?
Yes.
And you especially yeah, of course that's what you do. Yes, boycott and at least that. But when it's in your country, you cannot go around just dealing with slaves. I'm obviously talking back when there was slavery as an example, just an extreme example. And just consider yourself, well, I'm not a slave. I'm lucky that I'm not a slave, but things are how they are. And you can't consider yourself a morally right person if you are okay with it, if you are not fighting against it. And that's where the principle of anti-racist comes from. It's not about not being racist. It's about actually fighting racism.
Yeah,
and that's the same as anti-fascist. Everybody. It's fun. It's kind of interesting to say that a lot of people, and it's good that a lot of people say everybody should be anti-fascist. But anti-fascism is I feel it's more than just not being fascist. It's also it's working against fascism and fascistic things that happen.
I couldn't work for a few days when he got elected, and it was partly because there was this dawning realization that this was more sinister. I'm used to the idea that the two parties alternate having presidents, essentially, because people pretty much just let's try the other flavor every fucking 8 years. That's just my life. My lifetime has been, okay, every time somebody is president, they get 2 terms. And then when they're done, the other party gets to be president for 2 terms. And the Republicans never win the popular vote. They always win because of the Electoral College when they become the new president. But then they have the majority vote when they get reelected, because people just really love reelecting people in this country until now. But my entire lifetime of 30 years, I've just been watching okay, 8 years this guy, 8 years that guy. That's just the pattern. And yeah, 100% the Republican Party just never has to update their views and never has to change, and is so stuck in their shitty, stupid ways because of the fact that they don't have to get the popular vote, and so they just abuse what they can use to get the couple of states that they really need to actually win, that are the only risky people, and that's why that's a whole mess. But I'm used to the idea that we get a Republican president, and then there's a bunch of ignorant people in my life that just have just disappointing views on different racial groups and LGBT members, but also a lot of it's born from ignorance and a lack of exposure to those people. And so there's this, maybe even misguided, but it's still there, this hope and feeling that they can be reached if you talk to them about this and that thing, and you can educate them on this, or maybe if they finally meet somebody that belongs to that group, they might actually finally have their views challenged and so on. So there's this sort of born from ignorance thing that doesn't feel as explicitly hateful, even if that's maybe a naive way of looking at it. So and that's the way I would potentially feel if it was oh, Romney or Jeb or whoever is president. It's all right, that's disappointing, but we can work through this. But when Trump was so nakedly hateful and shitty and just the worst person, and then won, that has too much feeling of intent on behalf of the voters. That feels too much oh, there's a threatening aura now to walking around daily life now. This worry that everyone might be a whole lot worse than I was ever really willing to consider they could be as people.
Oh no.
It was no joke. The moment he fucking became president, it shook my initial assumptions of whether or not people are inherently good as a starting point, and then deviate from there. It genuinely made me think, wait, no, maybe everyone really is fuck you, got mine, and they're horrible, miserable people, and people that actually look out for others or care about any group besides themselves are the exception.
Yes.
It fundamentally altered my worldview the moment he became president. and
That is the-
damaged
that
my
is the thing.
relationships in life. And everyone's like, now the conversation's about like, can we mend this country? Like, can you regrow those bonds you once had with people that were damaged by the last 4 years? And it's like, I don't know, because all those
You
people
cannot.
fucking allied themselves with horrible things and then kept fucking reinforcing those when challenged. And it's like, on some level,
Should
like,
you even try to
No,
that's the thing.
go-
It's like my whole like my naivete or whatever may have been the problem is like for a long time people were able to look past. There was always this idea of like, oh, just don't talk about politics at the dinner table and don't talk about politics in these contexts.
That's what I
was
mean.
this-
That's
exactly.
the
Like, there
problem.
was
That's the cancer.
Yeah, there was this whole context where people were used to the idea of like, oh, well, we can get along despite our politics, and like that's like that's part of this whole like liberals like civility like theater,
The
which is the
US
whole which is the entire like fucking business model of like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and those types. Is like
The US
the idea
has
of
a-
looking clean cut and proper and so on is like more important than meaning. And the distressing thing, is like this last whole thing showed us to some extent what those ideologies mean and what it means to still be sticking with that side despite everything. And so basically the suspension of disbelief has been broken for people like on the left, the suspension of disbelief that you can still deal with these people on the right when they're willing to still keep going this far. Like it's that rubber band snapped is the problem.
I think it better to have snapped because the corporate establishment it's just clinging to that rubber band like there's no tomorrow. Like there were headlines immediately after the announcement of well, I don't know who he was though. There was some big person in the DNC saying that the election went so badly for the Democrats because they catered to the far left. They catered to extreme views of socialism and whatnot. When the vast majority,
the thing that's never happened before.
For one, they didn't.
Much
they did
to
the
my
opposite.
endless frustration.
But for like you see even Fox News exit polls about Medicare for all. 69% of the population is in favor of Medicare for all. Actually, it's worse than that. They actually phrased it in government-run healthcare. 69% are in favor, and that's just they're not polling. They're polling everybody. It's exit polls. So and you see. I saw a video specifically about this, and I don't remember exactly all the examples off the top of my head. I remember Medicare for all because that's a major issue for, as far as I know, it's health. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Health is in the forefront or foremind of a lot of people, the vast majority of people, as far as I know. But the things like even gun control, which is more contentious, the 65 to 42 or something like that. Was in favor, and it's just because somebody thinks of themselves, if you ask them, are you a conservative, are you a liberal, are you a progressive, or whatever label you want to use, just because they might say I'm a conservative doesn't mean that they don't have ideas that are to the left of both parties. If you like, minimum wage is a thing that's I think 70-something% of the U.S. population. And it's somebody who is a conservative can be totally in favor of minimum wage, and somebody who's a progressive might be against that. People are different. People have different ideas about different things. But that's why following labels just doesn't work like that. You need to talk about policy. Whenever don't talk about policy at the dinner table is an interesting thing because I have that as well in my own life. Not necessarily with my immediate family, but with my extended family. And I avoid talking about parties and talking about specific people. I always go for the route. I always go for like policies and just attitudes to have towards things. And so if you say, well, this wouldn't have happened if we had Medicare for all, are you really talking about politics or are you talking about policy?
Should always
what I mean?
It should always be policy.
I think so.
I don't like politics is not about emotion or feelings or like what. Yeah, it's all about policy. It's all about the things that will help make this country.
I mean, no, politics is entirely about emotion and feelings.
Which is why it's just shit. That's why I hate it. It
shouldn't be like that, though.
I don't give a shit about who you are. I give a shit about what you're gonna do. That's the only thing that matters to me. You either need to move this country forward or just leave. Just get out. Just go somewhere else. Go do something. Like there are 100,000 countries that run at like shit level. You can go work there. But I want like if you're going to run this country, you need to run it forward, keep moving the country, because I'm tired of this, like, well, we're just going to stand here and it's fine. And I'm like, no, move the legs. You need to move forward. Like, we need to have better education, better healthcare, better like energy efficiency, better like things should always be getting better every single president. There should never be a time where we go like, well, we got to revert this back. Why are you reverting back? What did you?
Because it was Obama who did it. How dare you?
Okay, then take it and make it better. If you're going to remove something, you have to take something away and put something better in its place. You can't just like, that's the thing that frustrates me about a lot of politics here, is that it's all about doing something, breaking something, something, breaking something. It's like, stop breaking. Just
you spend 8 years obstructing the other party from doing any of the things they want to do, and then you spend the next 8 years dismantling everything they did do. It's like, wow, then, what a great fucking system.
What a fucking great system. And then and then
you have people like Mitch McConnell that just make a fucking career out of making sure nothing ever gets done, and he just does that for decades.
he makes sure a lot gets done. Mitch McConnell is responsible for appointing like Mitch
McConnell does more for the Republican Party than any Democrat has ever done in their entire lifetime for the Democratic Party. Mitch McConnell is so fucking efficient, it's upsetting. But nobody in the Democratic Party can actually
He's brazen about it as well.
Well, because no one will stop him. No one fucking does anything to him.
They know they won't stop.
You can push him down the stairs and the fucking guy will crumple into nothing but dust. Like, the man is like 100 years old. He has been here longer than the country has. Fucking do something about it. It's not hard. They don't want to,
though. Like, think of how the Republican Party deals with the Democratic base. Have you ever seen the Republican Party be like, we need to reach out to the Dems. We need to win elections. We need to appeal to their hearts.
They don't have to, because they know that all
but contrast that to how the
Republicans
Democrats do.
Are just disenfranchised Democrats. That's all it is. They just go like, well,
that's actually an interesting take.
I want this thing, but I can't get it. And the Republicans promise me they'll do it, but they never fucking do it. But they promise me they'll do it. The Democrats don't even listen to me. Like, that's all they want. They just want to be heard. And the Republicans like, we'll listen. We won't do anything about it. Fuck you. But we'll listen to you. And like, that is enough to sway them. And Democrats like, no, we're not going to hear about stupid shit like, giving everyone and their dog a gun because that's a stupid policy. And the Republicans like, we're super here for it. We won't do it, but we're super here for it. Like, that's the difference. And that's not how it should be. You should not be like,
you have one party that will take anything they can and stubbornly never, ever go in the other direction. And then one party that's like, we have to appeal to everyone and let's bridge the gap and so on. So now we have a party that's far right and another party that's right of center. And it's like, cool. There's no victory. You can't have a victory between these two parties. There's just one is a disaster and the other one is, well, that's a relief. At least that didn't happen. But you never, there's never like, wow, this is the party that'll do good now. It's like, no,
that's the thing.
They'll just do less damage than the Nightmare Party, but they suck so much.
And I hate the tagline is always, we'll go back to normal. And I'm like, you motherfuckers. It's just make America great again, but with different fucking words. Like, stop doing that. There is no like idyllic, nostalgic, better America. America's been fucking garbage since day one. It's been nothing but shit. And the whole point is that we're supposed to progressively get to a better place. That's why the Constitution isn't fucking stringent like a Bible. It's meant to be like, well, I don't know, man. In 200 years, maybe you're going to have flying cars, laser beams, and a dog that shoots fucking Pop-Tarts out of it. I can't make a law about that in dirt road era. Like, I can't decide. But the people of the future, you guys will make a better country, right? And Republicans are like, no. And Democrats are like, well, no. And I'm like, what? I want a better country, though. And they're like, well, the Libertarian Party exists. Like, what the fuck is this? Who votes for Libertarian Party? Like,
that's even worse. Aren't they like far right wing as well?
It's so well, I mean, it depends. Sometimes they are,
or do they use the wrong name again? Like they call them liberals.
But that's the thing. Is like, the thing I want is a third party, and the third party is not a thing that exists in this country. So it's like, I'm frustrated where I'm like, neither of you are gonna do anything for me. So why do I give a shit? Like, why am I going to invest any emotion into
'cause
politics?
Not only do we desperately need to remove the entire electoral college, but we need to revamp the entire voting system to be ranked choice, or really anything other than what we have right now, where it's just you vote
And
for
you
one
also
of
need
two
to
people,
remove money out of politics.
and that's all. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Which
but
clearly
that
people
requires
don't care
an
about
amendment
because they thought
to the
Trump was a
Constitution.
great idea.
yeah.
You know what we
It's
need is
baffling to
fewer
me.
corrupt officials. Let's elect the most corrupt person we've ever heard of.
Maybe he's going to put golden
that'll
toilets
fix
in the
it.
White House.
It's really impressive to me that every fucking year, maybe a couple of times a year, the EU has a meeting, or not the EU, the UN has a meeting, and there are several fucking countries in that meeting that have a way better voting system than we do, and we interact with them every fucking year, and not once does someone go, "Hey, how come your country isn't shit? Could you share some secrets with that about us?" Like, you know who has really good...
You think
like,
we'd catch a little of the real democracy by proxy just every now and then?
you would think it would rub off on us because we interact with real democracies.
But you know why they don't
like,
want it, though? You know why the establishment doesn't want ranked choice voting?
That's not an excuse, though.
They might,
That's the
no,
thing.
it's the
might actually
explanation.
lose
It's not
their
a-
chance.
It's the thing is the ones who hold control are the ones that benefit from the
What does that mean?
status quo.
What do you mean the ones that hold control? Like,
the only
vote for
people-
people.
Yeah,
No,
you
he's,
do.
he's talking
but-
about the Democratic and Republican Party having a symbiotic relationship with each other where they keep each other in power indefinitely. And as long as they don't rock the boat by actually changing the rules, then those two can both still be the two parties in power. and
That's
play
not,
this-
that doesn't seem what the
this-
Republican
they-
Party is doing at all.
They can
And
continue.
never.
Can you
they can
imagine-
continue this silly dance I've seen my entire life, where they just alternate like a pattern, as if there's no real
can you
choices involved
imagine
either.
if the US all of a sudden tomorrow started with ranked choice voting for everything? Can you imagine how the US would look in 10 years? You can't tell. Maybe the Democratic Party wouldn't exist anymore. The Republicans
I know what it
certainly
would look like. It would look like someone took Sweden and enlarged it by 300%. That's what it would look like. Like, fuck, dude.
It's actually
we are
more
much
than that.
more than 3 times the size of
3,000.
Sweden.
It's
Well,
3,000%.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe all that
If you look on the map,
socialization will give us
California
like
is
a
about
lot
the
less.
size of most European countries.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean, though. The idea is like we would be such a hugely progressive country, and it'd be great and fantastic, and other people would go, "Fuck, man, it's kind of hard
It
to."
also
There's an
but the thing
infuriating
is-
reality where not only Democratic platforms, but platforms that are left of the Democratic Party are often the most popular opinions in the country. But there's so many levels of obfuscation. Partly the part where, the entire middle of the country, each of those people counts for a dozen of me when we vote, for example. But also the fact that, we don't actually have any kind of real democracy where we can actually select candidates in any meaningful way. Because what really happens is once every 4 years, we just kind of have two people thrown in front of our faces, and we're told that that's our choice, and we're supposed to be placated by that and feel like we really did something. But we have little to no power in the actual structures that lead to those people getting there in the first place. And even if you talk about the primaries, that's just another pre-selected list of groups.
That's the same,
of
yeah.
people that you can't really have any impact on. And guess
And
what? Most of the time, you already know who's
impact the
going to
money
win
has.
on day one.
Yeah, because the money that's poured into the primaries and the especially in like all the I would think for the is it Congress? Yeah.
For everything,
Yeah. So like because that the impact of money in politics is actually felt, as far as I understand it anyway, is felt in a deeper way in local politics rather than necessarily in federal or in countrywide politics. Because when it's about the country, the impact of the media starts to have more of a role. Just the biases, the natural biases of each channel, and all that sort of stuff, and who talks on television.
Well,
But when you're talking about like local races, the money that you can pour into local races and to ensure that people get elected from each party, that money is so influential because that's just how you get to pay people to go door to door or pay for advertisements or for what's it called, the opposition research. There's a name for it. There's opposition research as well. And so and that's why they want money to exist in politics. Both parties do. And they want ranked choice voting to not exist. Both parties don't. And they're the only ones that can change that are them.
That's been a frustrating myth that I keep seeing seeing during this whole election, was that people kept saying, this is the one time every 4 years when you have just as much power as Jeff Bezos, and you have even more power than Apple, because Apple doesn't even get to vote. And it's like, yeah,
Bernie Sanders was the most popular senator, and I think still is.
The problem is that all those people that they're... Sorry, we have to take turns. We have to... Sorry. But, but like, there's this whole idea that everyone has one vote and we're all equal, but that's like that's zooming all the way in on your screen until there's only 2 pixels left and ignoring the entire image that the screen was making up, because those wildly powerful people chose the list. They're the ones that functionally get to choose who's on the list of candidates in the first place, and we do not get to do that. So yes, we get equal vote at the final stage, but there's 500 steps before that we can at most donate $1,000 to, or whatever the fucking donation limit is, and in most ways not really affect in any real way. And like that's irreparable as long as there's this much money in politics. Like while we continue to have this restricted voting system, it's like, okay, we can't really select people, and we also can't influence who people get to select in the first place. And there's this whole fucking myth that keeps the dream of elections alive, which is when you explain to people the idea that, oh, we're all equal, we all get one vote. And that's like, it's up there with like the fucking invisible hand of just like fucking, it's propaganda. Like it's just to make you feel better and believe in the system as opposed to actually thriving in it.
Yeah, it's frustrating too, because I think a lot of the problem comes down to politics being slowly, just like most corporations end up being, is that they keep being funneled into a smaller and smaller group. And like, for example, how do you find out about local elections? Like, just seriously, like, how would you know who's running for mayor in your town?
It's not great. You pretty much drive around, which admittedly was happening less this year because of COVID, but you just drive around and see names.
So like, if you took
that guy's name's funny. His name's Josh Harder.
Yeah. So if you took out the signs on the lawns, how the fuck would you know who's running for mayor? Who's running for like the Board of Education? Yeah, no, the only thing that you get is the endless spam in your inbox that all looks like drag people's name through the mud, like hate. Like, what do you call it? What's the term for that? Is
it muckraking or something? I don't know. There's like a term for like the type of like ads you do that are specifically just attacking other people.
Ads.
I guess just attack ads, but there's like a better. There's like a nice term that I can't think of right now. Yeah, like it's just petty shit. And of course, it's constant spam in your inbox. So you're mostly just you open your mailbox, you get the 75 postcards that came in the last 48 hours from all the different parties, and then you throw them away. But no, actually the big upside of the mail-in ballot was that I got to fill in my ballot at home, which meant I got to sit there and Google every single person, which I did. I'm like, this is way better than trying to like fucking do the pop quiz in a fucking random room where I have to wait 2 hours to get into the room, then just be really panicked of like, am I filling this out right, or am I going to fuck it up and this isn't going to get handed in? It's like, I can Google questions like, oh, what kind of pen am I supposed to be using and how do you fill them in for sure? And like, I can Google every single question I have about how to do the form, and I can Google every single person involved, and then watch a fucking like town hall debate thing they had via what's it called, Zoom and stuff like that. And it's like, I can actually find out who these people are and not just vote at random or just vote based on what party is listed next to their name or whatnot.
What you're talking about is what I do every fucking time. I sit there, it takes a week, I go through every proposition, I have a site that I go to that I list every proposition, who's for it, who's against it, what groups, what senators proposed it. I go through, I research all this stuff, and I make an educated vote, put it in the mail, send it away, and then just get disappointed every fucking year. Every time, consistently. And every time I look, like, what happened? I go and talk to people, like family. Why did you vote that? Oh, I just saw a sign. Why the fuck? Why the fuck would you vote for? Why the fuck would you change your entire local life around a sign? Like, it's baffling to me how impossible it is for the average person to have any kind of good information related to local elections going on, because every fucking media outlet is homogenizing every election into just Democrat and Republican, and there are hundreds and thousands of more important minor elections happening than the stupid fucking Tower of God Olympus people up there doing their shit to daily like bullshit. Like seriously,
it's a failing. It's a failing of how we process the entire thing. It's the celebrity of elections, which is that.
Yes.
And yeah, like those two people that are running for president are spending more money than anybody else on the planet in their particular election, and that's endless media coverage, and everyone's focused on that. But yeah, like there's so much endless focus on that they end up being the only people that exist. And like no matter how, like it's the point where like people that are like, even people that are really engaged with politics get completely blindsided when they actually look at the real ballot they're going to fill out, because there's so little opportunity to even encounter most of those names and those ideas and so on. And I feel like the internet somewhat makes that worse, even though it could make it better, because when you have YouTube and Twitter and all these other places, like there's another layer there of celebrity where particular YouTube channels and particular personalities and whatnot become more and more the homogenized popular people for people to potentially watch, and there are fewer and fewer people, and people inherently are more likely to find the popular people than anyone else, so they only become more popular. And then those people only talk about the most popular thing, which is the election, which means that people get funneled more and more in an endless loop towards just paying attention to the two people that are duking it out, and not like the hundreds of other people they should potentially know about. And it's like you have to actively go out of your way to find that stuff.
That's an inherent problem with the monetization system of YouTube. Not that I'm saying that YouTube shouldn't be monetized. The point is political channels, and any channel in general, but specifically political channels for this example, they're incentivized to make sure that their base, or the people who watch their videos, comes back, even if it's not tomorrow, maybe in a month, or that they come back, and that they
every
listen
video
more.
is supposed to have the widest possible net for who's going to click on it.
But the problem with that is that because eventually, most channels just end up saying the same things over and over again, and just with different news or whatever is going on in the world at the time. People, if you listen to a YouTube channel or a news channel, or not a news channel, but a commentary channel like Dave Rubin, for example, if you listen to it for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, you're basically listening to the same thing. You got the same thing out of the first month that you got over the 5 years in a row. You know what he says. You know how he thinks. You might get some better nuance as to the nitty gritty here and there. But and I'm just saying him as an example because he's a very big one, and also with a lot of influence. But the thing is, that's not how you should act if you want to grow and learn. You should learn a little bit about that person and make your own opinion. Maybe you agree with them, maybe you don't, and then go and watch something else. And then you learn from there, and then you look for somebody that, maybe knows more than they, or has a different perspective. That's how I do it anyway. But that goes counter to what channels are built like, because everybody that I watch on YouTube, no matter the genre, or no matter the subject, everybody that I watch wants me to come back, and the videos are made in a way that they not just the videos, but the narrative and what they focus on and what they choose to talk about is made in a way that they want you to come back and listen to more, and it needs to be rewarding to watch another video, and that's how you get successful on YouTube, by paying attention to that sort of stuff. So what that does is just it incentivizes the club mentality, and just sort of like, it's my team. I watch this personality on YouTube, and if he says that the people in Florida are going to sell their houses when the ocean rises, then it must be true.
It would just also be nicer if there was a better or there is a better habit built into young people on where they should go to research, and knowledge that they need to focus more on local elections and don't give a shit about the big stuff. Like, again, the Trump isn't anything. The dude is literally just a fucking fat ass turd in a seat. That's all he does all day. He sits there and warms a fucking chair. It's other people around him who are constantly doing the work for him. And it's people in Congress or people, even locally in like other Republicans in your local town that are doing things based on his decisions. And if he doesn't have those connections, he can't do anything. Like for the next 4 years, we're not going to have anything get done here because Republicans still own the majority of the stuff that matters. So that's the thing that frustrates me is that there's nowhere you can go. Like each individual state has hundreds and hundreds of elections that are really important because they all have their own Senate. They all have their own Supreme Court. They all have their own micro America inside of them. And you vote on that stuff. You get to choose that stuff. And there needs to be better support for researching that stuff. There needs to be more information, more, hey guys, election's really cool and everything, but just remember, you can go to your state's website and go do research for your upcoming elections or something. Because you watch a news channel, let me tell you about what the president's saying. It's cool, man.
Because Philip DeFranco or CNN aren't going to talk about the governor race in New Orleans because basically for the same reason we played Among Us yesterday. It's you do the thing that casts a really wide net and gets a bunch of people to click on the thing so that you can maintain your cult of personality and your personality based platform where people need to keep coming back for you.
And I get it. People want to consume me. Consuming, listening to someone talk about a topic is a lot easier than reading about a topic. But it's not the way that you're going to be able to make good informed decisions. You are not there. There is no YouTube channel you can watch where someone's going to go, all right, New Orleans, let me break it down for you. Real talk, or Louisiana, more specifically. Louisiana,
you have to fight the algorithm and get increasingly specific searches to find the one dude in your town that
you need to go on page,
is useful.
You need to type Louisiana elections, go to page 5 of the YouTube search results, and find a channel with 250 views.
Yeah,
that's going to be the one.
A lot of quotes to your searches of specific phrases.
That's the thing. Is and that's what matters. And people need to just start distancing themselves from this easy, bite-sized, consumable media, because you're not getting any information that way. You watch a snippet of someone going I can't believe he said that, or oh, Trump said this but this is a lie. That doesn't benefit you. You don't get anything out of listening to a fact check, because at the end of the day, either he lied, or even if you watch it, you're probably just going to disagree anyways. Mainstream media bias shit. Just go put your head down and go deeper. Go look into the little things that are nearby. Think the Gavin Newsom thing for California is a good example of he's opening up for the winery. Fine. Where did you see that? Who said that? Is it if this is true, then wouldn't every local news station be talking about the fact that the governor's literally scamming the state? Where is this information? Why isn't it readily available? Is it and the argument is always, but Google
Facebook
is
just killing everything.
Yeah. But I'm saying it's there's the argument of the Google's censoring the shit. It's no, you just aren't looking anything up. You're looking.
That's just propaganda, though. That's just them saying that's just Trump going, I won the election by a lot, and they know they're not. They know Google is not. They know Facebook is not blocking. It's the
Facebook,
opposite, actually.
Facebook does block stuff.
Blocks left has a right wing bias, and they say that it has a left wing bias. They're just saying.
Well, I'm saying when politicians say something, you don't have to listen to what they're saying.
I think there's a phenomenon.
It's why these platforms might as well just actually deplatform people, and why the Democratic Party might as well just actually go left for once, because no matter what they do, the Republican Party will just accuse them of doing it anyway.
Biden's a socialist, which is the most insulting and upsetting and hilarious thing I've ever heard in my life.
Biden should be the Republican Party candidate.
He's a Republican.
Yes, Biden's such a good Republican. He is the best Republican I've ever seen.
But also,
he is what I wish every Republican was. He is not a Democrat. Please go home, sir. You are in the wrong house. I don't know who gave you the keys to the Democrat house. You don't belong here. Go to the other side where you belong and put, I don't know, maybe a really progressive candidate.
He was literally there to placate our right-leaning right-leaning country to be less afraid when a black president happened.
Yes.
That's his job, is to appeal to the people that are afraid of a black president. Like,
which isn't good. That's if you need that, your country is broken. You need to not elect that guy to president, because that's hilariously ironic that you elected the guy who's there to quell down your fears of racism.
Also, a vice president to a president who said that in his words, 20 years ago, I would be a moderate Republican. This was Obama's words. And that's just, he was criticizing the way the Republican Party has shifted to the right. In when he said that, but it's also
make me feel better though.
No, I'm not saying that. Yeah, that's good that he doesn't. I'm saying it because that's not good. I think like he's the Republican vice president of a would-be Republican president that was elected to quell white supremacists.
It just
but
it doesn't. But that's the thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you've done that. Like, even if you like, well, he's gonna bridge the gap. I don't want it gapped. I don't want it bridged. I don't want either of those. You need to that's the thing that's infuriating, is I don't want this like let's reach out our arms and pull the other side back up to our level and we can work together. It's like no, put the hand and push them down, make them under the cement, then lay it nice and flat, and we'll build a new world on top of their corpses, which is where they should be, because they've done nothing but drink.
They don't want that new world. They're not going to get. They're not going to get their nice, sweet money. They do care about them, though.
No,
I'm talking about the Dems.
I don't.
I know.
I want to vote for a candidate that doesn't care. I can't, because I will never be given a candidate that doesn't care about doing this weird, like, I'm going to put one foot in the grave so that other people feel happy that I'm at least trying to kill myself. I don't want that. I don't want a suicidal candidate. Stop putting these fucking centrists in a goddamn president seat. I'm
so sorry, European viewers. Not because we're talking about politics, because, I mean, no, but because of the fact that you're watching in horror as this is all happening, and we have to awkwardly explain to you how like the guy that has 4 million more votes was still at risk of not winning, and it's the race between, like, it's a country that's so far behind most of yours in a lot of terms, and it's a race between the guy who's going to actively go in the opposite direction and make things worse, or the guy who's going to flaccidly half promise to almost make progress towards where most of Europe already is, but then not do it. Like, and then whoever wins is giving your countries essentially permission for what kind of politics are popular, because American politics and the fucking presidential race in particular is such a fucking celebrity show that not only does it dominate all discourse here, it dominates discourse in other countries and forms the kinds of discussions people are having and where they think it's okay to go. Like, the America leaning further to the right gives the rest of the world permission to go further that way. Not because America actually controls like their election specifically, but because there's so much coverage of it, and you guys are also used to watching this shit all the time, like it's fucking Tom Cruise or something, that like it dominates discussions and changes where the Overton window is for everyone.
Yeah. If you don't know what an Overton window is, it's basically what is acceptable discourse in the public life. It's a kind of a technical term, but it's very important to understand, because whenever you propose something that is outside of the norm, whenever you are
dismissed outright.
Yeah, and that's why like shifting that window of discourse is important, because it allows people to say whether grab them by the pee is okay or not.
That's why electing Trump was so distressing, was because he normalized a bunch of shit that would have been completely unacceptable only a few years ago. And now that's just like our base level. And that's just what people are used to talking about now. And that just gives them more fucking rope. They just keep going.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying.
Now we have the
like,
fucking Proud Boys and whatnot feeling encouraged and included, like they have the ear of the president and stuff like that, and they're in the right, and they have power, and that they're accepted, and it's like
that's the thing. That's why I feel like it. I don't want my foot in that grave. I don't.
There's your fucking Overton window being fucked. The fact that the Proud Boys were even named by the moderator in a presidential debate. Like they're a group that gets consideration, unironically, in the most official place possible, basically.
I mean, it's I look forward to the day when Proud Boys is our KKK, where we get to look back and it's like, well, son, back in my day, we had these people who really hate black people. It's like, oh, like that party that still exists? Yeah, like that party that still exists. Like,
No.
like I get to. They're not going away in my lifetime. They won't go away in my child's lifetime. They won't go away in my great grandchild's lifetime.
That's the fucking myth
thing.
we're taught in American school, is the idea that racism was defeated.
I mean, yes, just like the Indians were. I mean,
Like,
wait, no, the Indians were.
like,
we
Martin
didn't
Luther
defeat
King-
them. Like,
Martin Luther
No, they
King
went
is
away.
like
They went
this
away.
mythical figure, basically, in American history, where they teach you American history in chronological order for a while. They teach you about slavery and Jim Crow and the water fountains and Rosa Parks and whatnot. And then Martin Luther King comes in and he just like has his dream speech, and he's inspiring, and everybody loves him, supposedly, even though he was assassinated and was wildly unpopular and thought of as dangerous, insane person at the time.
please, please.
And then
put
you
it
never hear
assassinated-
about racism ever again.
by our country.
Yep.
We-
He was
we-
not a popular figure.
We killed him. It's not a.
He's retroactively given sainthood by American schools, but he
yeah,
was
but I'm
not
saying, like,
liked, and then he was murdered.
But that's the thing. We don't. We really gloss over that whole thing about the fact that we literally killed him. Like we straight.
It's not the only thing you gloss over,
a leader of
though.
civil rights. Like that's not a good look. There's no. You can't like turn. You can't make that positive spin. Like we tried to put a
But
positive
like
spin
once
on the
he's
Native
dead,
Americans.
he's not dangerous anymore. You can commodify his message, and you can co-opt it
yeah.
and change what it means.
Wait, we have Martin
And
Luther
he
King
can't say
Day at
anything
school
back.
now. We have pins and buttons with his quotes. We have his face everywhere. I Have a Dream is a speech you see on television on Martin Luther King Day.
Even the
this
Republican
stuff.
Party says nice things about Martin
Well, yeah,
Luther King.
because
He was a
because-
literal socialist. Martin Luther King was.
I mean,
His speeches were so overtly political about things that are not even discussed right now. But I can only imagine that at the time
he was also a pastor, which is great. I mean,
Oh yeah,
that,
just giving.
that just makes it so much better too, because now he is godly too. He believes in religion, which is the most important part. It's just
Yeah,
I hate.
there's still some speakers that you have today. Reverend, what's his name? I'm sorry, Reverend. He's a speaker.
I don't
Al
keep track
Sharpton?
of.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, he's
I
not.
don't
He
remember
wasn't
the
a-
reference. Yeah, but
He's
still,
not-
you have
No, he's
some
a Baptist
preachers
minister.
today.
I'm not crazy. Okay.
You have
like, hang on a minute.
some people who have that power as well, and it's so powerful to listen to them. It's just, of course, Martin Luther King achieved a level that I don't think has been achieved since. And then maybe Malcolm X. I don't know much about Malcolm X.
Malcolm X is a little bit different. His story was really complicated compared to Martin Luther King.
Mhm.
And it doesn't get much better because Martin Luther King intersects in a weird way with politics, where he was the outcome of his thing is that no matter what, it looks bad for people who opposed him, because he was just he wasn't like doing anything violent. He was just walking down the street trying to live like everybody else and being assaulted for it. Malcolm X got the different side, where he's always portrayed as the instigator, and that
He was a lot more of a active, active
so
action
in
kind of
school,
person.
I remember specifically learning about
but
how
the two were heavily recontextualized via.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're used as foils against each other to make Martin Luther King this like perfect saint like.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
he's always forever used as like this example, like because like this year all the protests were happening and there was this constant fucking rhetoric about like the right way to protest, which is a fucking oxymoron. And it's like you guys do realize that your fucking example, MLK, was repeatedly jailed. Because even he, as the example of the correct way to protest, was not the correct way to protest, because there's never a correct way to protest. That's why it's a protest.
Yeah, and
Oh,
if they
If you
become
quietly
okay
hide
with
in
it,
the corner and never disrupt anything, then no one
Yeah.
knows you're there.
yeah. The reverend that I was thinking of is William Barber. I'm sorry, the name didn't come to mind immediately. And I really like his speeches because it's something. It's the way Martin Luther King talked and the way preachers talk in the U.S. is very different from anything I have access to here in Portugal. I think even in Europe as a whole. It's the heritage of the the African American community in the United States is very different. It's very unique, so you can really tell that people grow in that context, and so I think it's a very powerful thing. I really enjoy, and it's like you need to look for Martin Luther King stuff by yourself because it either gets misquoted a lot of the time or just some experts here and there. But there's so much stuff, and there's also books. I only read one, but half of one.
I respect Martin Luther King, but I despise the American retelling of Martin Luther King.
Yeah, he was great.
It's so infuriating when you listen. It's like, oh, this guy's pretty he's just saying shit that makes a lot of sense. There's nothing outlandish, crazy, or absurd about him. He's just saying, hey, could we just be people? Like, that would be really cool if you could just treat us like people. And then the American retelling is like he showed up and somehow swayed all of our hearts into believing that African people are people and we shouldn't treat them like weird, unwanted filth that somehow just showed up at our doorstep. And then we were, meditashi. We were all better after that.
We take somebody that was unpopular enough to be literally murdered, and then we use his legacy as a chance to pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah, and then we continue to do it without no one says anything about it. Like they don't.
It's very difficult.
We're brainwashed to believe it because we literally are raised by a school system that has zero nuance and has an intrinsic interest in us believing in the American system and that it is good and that we are always making progress and so on. So we're taught slavery as a past concept. And a lot of people that just don't have that belief shaken for a long time, it fucking calcifies and it's never going to move at some point. And so it's like a fucking affront. Like, how dare you? That's anti-American. And then you become in favor of, for example, Trump's motions to be have even more pro-American schooling. Like even double down even more on this fucking propaganda approach to telling us about our own country so that no one is ever equipped at the age they should be to even understand what our country is like and what its history is because we just sandpaper off all the uncomfortable things.
Well,
did they literally... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
Did they literally arm teachers? Did they ever go ahead with that?
No, we didn't do that. We didn't go through with our we didn't go through with the plan. Well, one, it's a state-to-state thing. So it's not like the federal government can just show up and be like, all right, every teacher gets a gun. It's part of the federal policy.
Because it's unbelievable. There's some examples.
It's not really unbelievable.
For me to think of
the kindergartens.
Kindergarten.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
So Sacha Baron Cohen had this whole thing where he got with a bunch of conservative figures and played a character that was in favor of this idea of not only arming teachers, but then training students and having the students also be trained and armed and just have everyone taking guns to school. And then he was just seeing how young he could push it to still get the approval of whoever he was with each time. And it was just and they named it the Kindergardians and it was fucking horrifying. It was so fucking horrifying.
I love that. I love that sort of stuff because it's real. People would really do that without. They're not even trolling. They're just genuine. That's a good idea. And you're like, you're real people. You are real people that say real things. Stop. Don't do that. That's
people are much like the American school system and so on. People are used to just filtering through everything and not really questioning it. That fucking Borat 2 comes out and people are like, I hate when Borat got political. It's like, do you Have you seen Borat 1? Like recently?
I mean,
Because
it's the
like,
same thing of like video
holy
games.
shit.
Like, I can't believe video
like,
games
I
are
watched them
political. I can't
watched
believe.
them back to back, and I was like completely taken aback by Borat 1 because it was like it was a ride. I did not remember where that movie went, and it was cathartic and deeply depressing in 2020.
I mean, shit. Like, cave paintings are political. You know who's the only people that could do cave paintings?
Yeah.
Fucking not poor cavemen because they had caves to live in. Like, shit, dude, hella political. Sorry, I wasn't cool enough to get a cave to paint in. Like, woe is me, man. Low fucking lifestyle I live. These guys got to have painted
Goddamn
caves.
bourgeoisie, cavemen, fucking cave washing history, pretending that
Right?
everybody had caves. What happened
Who
to
the
they say,
fuck-
oh,
who the fuck
cavemen
has
were
the
created equal, but only people that look like this and were dudes could have caves. No one remembers that part of cavemen.
Who has the free time to cave paint? We got to hunt. We got to build a village. We got to do so much. This guy's sitting here building fucking making cave
Dude,
paintings.
it's
What a privileged
gentrification in the
lifestyle.
prehistory. That's what it is.
Shit, man. God, it's like those like emperors that used to write poems. Like, how the fuck do you have time to write a poem? There's an army at your doorstep. He's like, yeah, but this haiku is just mwah, mwah. And I'm like, I'm fucking.
paleo gentrification.
Yeah.
It's
thing-
laughable whenever people are
think-
like, I don't want politics in the thing. It's like, then don't consume anything.
That-
You know what? The best thing to get rid of politics is to just close your eyes. Because that way you just don't see that. You don't see anything. Like,
Oh, you feel it though.
That's
You can't feel it.
That's giving into the darkness lobby.
I mean, shit. Great.
I think sorry?
No, it's great that sleeping is now political. What am I going to do?
right.
I can never escape this now.
The thing is, I think that's an extension of the don't speak politics at the table.
Well, yeah, don't speak politics at the table is, I don't want to be wrong. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Like, that's all it is.
Let me ignore the fact that there's people.
Or it's, honey, there's a giant rift between you and Grandpa, and we're just gonna hope that you never find it till he dies.
Yeah, and like, that's the thing is, when someone comes up to me and says, hey, blah, blah, blah about politics, I say no and confront them. And they go like, well, I don't think, like, it's okay we disagree. It's like, no, actually, it's not okay that we disagree. Like, I want to sit down right now and find out why the fuck you think that, because that is awful. You should not think that.
There's a
And
better way
people-
of approaching that, though, than the way you
there
say
is,
it.
but I don't
There
have
is.
time. I don't have time for that because most of these people are
Yeah,
adults,
well-
and I don't need to take time with it. Because honestly, if you're making these kind of fucking thoughts as an adult, we don't have time anymore. It's too late. If
you're stuck in a
Like,
conversation with them, then imagine you have time.
It's-
Imagine that's you're there for a little while.
There's no point. You're either going to change your mind or you're not. And going at it slowly, I don't have time to drip feed you intelligence. You either are born with it or you're not at this point, or not born with it. You either have it still or you've lost it already. Like, there's no in between here.
I don't think that's true. I think it's easy to.
I mean, it's
How
not.
do you-
It's not true.
How the hell do you read something on the internet and just go with it? Just you don't question it. You don't do anything about it. You just take that at fucking face value. That is such a level of intellect that fucking fish are better than you.
It's not
fish
about.
have more
It's
thought.
not about like your genetic intelligence or any idea
I'm
like
not saying-
that.
yeah.
It's just people.
I'm sorry,
It's just
I'm not
people's,
saying
it's
genetic
just people's
intelligence.
refusal to challenge themselves. And
But
they
I'm
see-
saying
they
that
see
you're also-
They see political comfort food that matches up with what they already think, and they just want to share it because it gives them catharsis. And instead of questioning that and having the risk of not getting to keep that good feeling they kept, they share it to then try to get even more good feeling out of it, because those are two separate positive feedback loops that you get on social media. Is like, one, you get shared things you already like algorithmically, and then if you share it in turn, you then get little fucking hits of endorphins from all the fucking feedback you get of other people liking it and so on. So like, it's just like an automated process. It's up there with like when people like, I think it was like, I saw like 8th grade, I think, showed like children using social media on like Instagram and other similar platforms where they scroll like one image at a time and then like, and then scroll, then like, then scroll, then like. They're not even looking at any of the things. They're just mass liking all of their friends' things no matter what. It's like there's certain what feels like alien to me behaviors that are just so encouraged in you from a young age on certain platforms that just becomes your default way of dealing with them. And so it encourages you not to think about how you're interacting with things. Because I had to ask people about it, because I was like, what the fuck was happening in that movie? Why was she using social media like that? And it's like, Oh yeah, people do that all the time. I'm like, fucking what? Fucking what? They just sit there and scroll and mass like everything, and they're not actually engaging with any of the pictures or like caring about who's in them or anything. It's just fucking. There's like human bots.
I have like a literal system with Twitter where I like stuff and I retweet stuff, but if I retweet something, I also like it. And that's because if I'm retweeting something, it's because I like it. So I do both. But I never retweet something unless I like it. And I never
let's go back to the question about the people being dumb.
Sorry, but the point I was trying to make was that it's intelligence to me is critical thinking. If you stop using that part of your body, if you stop critically thinking about anything, you lose intellect. I don't find you to be intelligent. I think you are just complacent and a fucking rock because you sit there and nothing changes about you. You are no better than a gravestone.
But it's a bit of a trap because we took the place where people are least encouraged to think about what they're doing because it's like the comfort food website that just fills in the gaps of their life and like their time waiting in line and other shit like that. And it's just like a daily like endorphin loop where they just get their self-value by revisiting these websites over and over again and getting the self-affirmment from it. And then we made that place the most important place to be thinking about what you're doing. And
it would always be the most important though, because that's where people are. No, but in the sense that like that's where people are. The people go wherever they are. That's the most important place.
I don't get
unless you control the message. Unless you have like a if they are watching television and you control the message, then television was the most important place, and now it's not. Now it's Facebook, and not really Twitter, but Twitter to a lesser extent. Just going back to
the difference between Twitter and Facebook is that in Twitter you're constantly in a little bubble of like-minded people that you can convince yourself reflects larger reality, and Facebook is the one where there are constant bubbles that you can't find and don't even know exist, and they secretly represent like what everyone's up to right now. Basically,
Facebook is the place where the larger reality comes to get you,
where shit's actually happening that affects these elections and so on, and opinion, and these untraceable fucking wineries.
God,
just to go back to
I wish I got endorphins from politics. I don't know how you people are surviving this way.
I agree with you there.
Like, fuck, dude. I get endorphins from one place, and that's just anime. And everything else is just a struggle that I have to constantly be thinking about and changing my views and being disappointed and upset and coming to the realization of every single thing. Like, and it's like, oh, I was wrong about this. Shit, I gotta get better. Oh, I was still wrong. I gotta get even better. I still was fucking wrong, and I gotta get better. Like,
most people are not like that though, but there's a reason.
That's why I define. That's what I mean. That's what I mean by intelligence. Is that when you stop doing that, like you essentially stop progressing, you stop moving forward, you stop being a thing.
But let me just point out something here. I think from what I'm understanding from what you're saying, like I think when you say that people are not critically thinking, and I agree with you, that's what I would consider to be, generally speaking, intelligence. It's critical thinking, critical thought. It's not levels of critical thought, it's where you apply it. Because we all have our blind spots, we all have our perspectives and biases and all that sort of stuff. And so, we're not going to be critically thinking about everything. We have assumptions in life, we have things that we're used to, and we have things that constitute our identity. That's in politics, that's a very important aspect of it as well.
But the thing is, nice.
And in this, what I mean, there's the way we think is part of who we are, and so there's things that we're not critical of because otherwise we would be questioning our own selves. And it's I'm talking obviously not necessarily in things as high level as whether
like the brain can't cite the source of every thought you ever have and think that you think so you constantly will, especially if you're a Let's Player, you'll just become aware of the fact that you will just constantly repeat things that are not true and not know why you thought the thing you thought, and you only find out via the comments that you're full of shit or something. Like it's the equivalent of like the number of people who think you swallow 8 spiders every year in your sleep.
But that's
my dad
that's okay.
Has been saying, my dad has said for my entire life that in Australia the law requires for something to be forbidden, it needs to be explicitly said in the law. If it doesn't say you can't ride on a roof of a car with a broom in your hand, then it's not forbidden. And he said that my entire life, that in Australia it's like that. Even like last week he said that, and I had realized a while back that that's not true. That's false. I don't know where he heard that, but he said that his entire life. And it's part of him. That's just who he is. He's like 66, I think. So, like, can you imagine what it would be for him to be, oh no, every You mean every time I said that as a joke and people laughed, I was lying?
I was
Yes. Can you
always
imagine?
full of shit.
Yes,
Yes.
that's what
Yes,
you
you
just say him to his face. You're wrong. You've been wrong
Yeah,
your
I said
entire
that,
fucking
and he
life.
refused to accept it because he's an
That-
expert in Australian law, obviously, and he speaks the language as well, which he doesn't.
That's what they just speak English, and that's what I
No,
mean.
he
is
doesn't.
that-
My dad doesn't.
Oh, okay. Right. I gotta remember that.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. I'm just being
Yeah,
sarcastic
it's
here.
Portugal,
Like,
right?
Oh,
it's so
right.
absurd that he would say that I'm wrong in something that I looked up.
But that's the thing is like
No, that
that
happens all the
to
time,
me.
though. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is my problem. Like I have never lived a life where I wasn't wrong. I've been wrong 99% of my life. Every second I live, I'm wrong.
What I'm
and
saying
I
is
have
there
to
are-
constantly live with that, and I
there
have to
are
keep
things-
adapting and getting better. And like the fact that people don't do that baffles me. What do you
Andrew,
do with your life? What,
Andrew.
you just sit there complacent? You just
Andrew.
you lie to yourself? Like I guess I'm okay. I
Andrew,
have
what
done
I
nothing
mean-
wrong.
What I mean is there are things that you as well never consider yourself to be wrong, even though you are.
But if someone
It might
tells
not
me
be-
it doesn't, I don't
Even when
negate
somebody
it.
tells you. Even when
Yes.
somebody tells you. No, I'm telling you, there are things where what you're criticizing other people for, maybe they're not as many because of obviously having a more, you're consciously aware that there's such a thing as critical thinking and you're doing an effort. And obviously it's not to the same level, but there are things where we all say in the face of evidence, we say that's not true.
Sure,
And maybe it's not as the best evidence, or maybe it's just somebody saying you're wrong and they don't present any evidence. But what I mean is the level of you can't expect everybody, especially in a society as ours, that exhausts people during the day because they need to work. Otherwise, they die. They literally starve to death.
and I guess we're gonna have a lot
there-
better people left over. Like
That's the point. That it'd be worse. Look at the people who are not starving. Look at the rich.
like if
They're the
if
ones
someone
that are
tells
the
me
worst.
if someone tells
They're
me I'm
never going
wrong,
to starve.
then I find out if I was wrong. If someone says,
yeah.
"Hey, you have a wrong opinion on that," oh, okay, well, tell me where
But
the
the
right
thing-
one is, or I'm gonna go look and find if I'm wrong on
But the
multiple
thing is,
sources.
That's
And-
because you were raised that way, or
No,
you
I wasn't. I was raised
or-
in a bunch of people who just don't want to listen to anything. They just
You grew
shut
up
every.
doing that, though. Did
No,
you
I
grow up-
didn't.
No. Okay, that's
I
fantastic.
came to because I reached a point where people were like, "You're a shitty fucking human, and I don't want to be around you. No one wants to be around you. No, you're
don't
not
think-
enjoyable." And so I just took that into then I suck. I am an incredibly shitty human, and the only thing I can do is
that's
keep
fantastic.
changing, break every piece of my body.
But
Like
the thing is, I don't think that
I have
don't
to
think it's
Theseus ship my brain. That's like the only way I can continue living. Is I have to.
but-
Every piece has to be changed.
what I'm saying is I don't think it's fair to say well,
Why?
fair, and I'm not saying fair of you. I don't think it's fair to say that the value of a person or the intelligence of a person is dictated by their priorities. Because somebody might have different priorities, but still be very smart.
And again,
And you see that, for
that's
example, in
fine.
scientists, for example, they're generally very focused people that don't really care about politics whole lot, although some do, obviously. I'm just, maybe I'm wrong in this generalization, but imagine a world where most scientists are just all the nerds that we saw on cartoons when we were kids. And they're very smart, but they just think about planets all day long. You can say that they're not valuable.
Which, again, is
you can
fine.
say that they're
but
not
if-
smart, but they also don't care. When you tell them, "Oh no, the Republicans they're going to do something bad for you," and they're going to be like, "Well, yeah, sure," and they still vote Republican. You can't. This is a bad example because that's not what you're referring to. But what I mean is, there's blind spots for everybody, and some of them are very big, and we can consider them to be very, very bad to have a blind spot in certain aspects. But I think my original point is we need to be very careful not to conflate being susceptible or being influenceable, which is most people are influenceable by advertisement and by just the groupthink and all that. Being influenceable with being not smart, because those are two different things, I feel. And I think it's sometimes, and this is just going back to when we were starting this part of the conversation. Sometimes all you need to do, instead of saying you're wrong and here's why you're wrong, all you need to do is be like, I hear you. What about this? And you plant a seed. You go to the root of the problem and just maybe see some contradiction in the way they talk and just mention it. This has happened to me a few times where I meet people who have wildly different ideas about things or opinions about things. And I just talk about something that will set them on edge, and not necessarily as a confrontation, but just sort of like mention an inconsistency or something that will give them a different perspective, or maybe even act in a certain way that they're not expecting. And that's enough. And it has been enough for me, for example. I can say that from personal experience, there are things that I think today that I do because of the people doing that to me, knowingly or unknowingly.
You know, I've had a case where I was talking to somebody at random at the library of my college that I'd never met before and would never see again. But I don't even remember what the fucking risk was that I was discussing, but I discussed what was essentially like that risk diagram concept, where it's like there's four things. There's two options. Do you prepare for the bad thing, or do you not prepare for the bad thing? And then and then does the bad thing happen, or does the bad thing not happen? Is like that essential idea, is basically like those four different outcomes based on the combinations of how you behave and whether or not the thing happens. And I use that as like as an argument for an idea, and I don't remember what we were discussing necessarily. But then the person comes back with like, yeah, you're right, and that's why I believe in God. And it's like, oh no, this argument like justifies why everyone has to believe in God, because if you don't, you go to hell. So you better believe in God, because if you're right or wrong, well, you better be prepared. Like, I'm like,
but that's them critically thinking. That's them doing their critical thinking as well.
Even then, my first reaction to that is to be like, oh God, he's completely dismantled this entire concept of what I'm talking about, and I need to never use this argument again and never think this way again, because clearly this doesn't work. And then the next day I think about it on the drive home, and I'm like, wait, but I was talking about it in terms of things that can conceivably happen, whereas he was talking about it in terms of like, will a dragon attack tomorrow? And it's like, that doesn't dismantle the entire rhetorical argument concept, when the hypothetical thing is actually hypothetical. Like, it's not like, here's a thing that will probably happen, but we don't know for sure, and maybe we should discuss being prepared for this risk and whatnot, or so on. Although I was probably talking about global warming, honestly, in which case it's a certain thing, but you're trying to convince people that don't believe in it that actually maybe we should really be dealing with it. Yeah. But and his comeback was basically, like, what if a dragon attacks? You better prepare for dragon attacks. And I'm like, yeah, no, this doesn't actually work. So like, you have like the first recoil of like, oh God, everything I know is a lie. And then the second wave of like, no, I'm fine.
There's almost never I don't think there's ever been a religious response I've received where I go like, let me think about that. It's always like, wow, this is a completely dumb thing you just said to me with your mouth, with the words of your mouth. Please don't do that again. Like, there's no, the
religion is an interesting, or religiousness rather than religion, is an interesting thing in regards to
fantasy.
Critical thinking
is a really interesting
but the thing
is
but the thing is, it serves a purpose, a very real purpose for a lot of communities, for one, and that needs to be understood and respected, especially when we're talking about and I think
what does it serve?
We were talking about preachers before. I was talking anyway about preachers. And as far as I understand it anyway, in the US, the Black Christian church is a very different type of church and religion, not necessarily religion, but, sort of group, than the white Christian church in the US. And even historically, looking at different parts of history, religion has served different roles and different, not goals so much, but like it has a place that cannot be discarded. And I'm saying this as an agnostic person.
I think that's a really, I think I understand where you're going with it.
Mm-hmm. But I'm talking from a practical standpoint.
Yeah, like the sense of community, and
for example,
it brings the community together. It it
but
helps
it also
each other
allows
out.
them. Yeah, it allows them to focus on a thing that sometimes is used.
The best parts of religion in the United States are the parts that are byproducts, essentially. They don't have to do with the belief system so much as the fact that there is just this social, and there's this social group that has nothing to do with like who your family is and like your direct connections your job would bring, but instead is this other extra layer of social cohesion that makes your community better via this unity and like social interactions and so on.
I would almost,
it's just kind of the failing of our society that there aren't really more of other things that cause that.
Yeah, I would almost call that being a citizen of a town.
But-
and you are together in a community in this town that you live in and are a part of, and should want to collaborate with others in the town of your community to make a better place for your family. Because why do you have to turn to a fucking ghost in the sky to make your world better? Just fucking make it better. Don't rely on this shitty pillar to do the job.
I mean, you're the example of that failing. Because you absolutely are not going to any sort of substitute for that.
I can't, but that's the problem. There are so many toxic wastelands in this country I cannot do anything about. I can't solve that. I am part of my community. I am actively a part of my community.
I think
I don't know how much more I could be. I paid attention to the elections going on. I joined.
No, I'm saying we're talking about how there's the one positive byproduct of these of like church going and whatnot on a weekly basis, and how it's kind of a failing that there aren't really replacements for that outside of religion. And my point is that you're saying all that, but as far as I'm aware, you don't have anything like that in your life either.
No, I don't.
Somebody who votes is not equivalent.
But I'm still more active in my community. I'm still a part of my community more than I would say the average person tends to be. Like,
go ahead.
Sorry, go for it.
What I meant to say is that it's not so much about the origin of religiousness or the spirituality of a person, and not even which is another consideration to have is just how respectful you must be or must not towards people's beliefs. Because that's not really what we're talking about here. The thing is, the fact that you disagree with their religion, whatever religion it is, because I'm talking to you, but obviously any person, there are people who believe in all religions. There's ways of thinking for that as well, but I'm not versed in that. But what I mean is, people will say, oh, I don't agree with that religion, even if they're not religious, or if they're religious, it doesn't matter. There's always a religion that they don't agree with. What I mean to say is, if you don't agree with somebody's religion, it isn't, the criticism can't be that you're wrong because your religion is wrong, because that is similar to saying somebody criticizes capitalism and you say, you're wrong because you still have money and you still work and you still pay taxes.
But I see you participate in society. Very interesting. I'm very intelligent.
And the reason why it's similar, let me just close the point because it's kind of complicated. The reason why it's similar is that different people will take different things from religion. So and that's why I mentioned the black Christian church in the US, because it feels to me that it's very different from what we have here in Portugal. We're majorly Catholic. And so my perspective comes from there. It feels very different because I think it focuses more on an attitude, or the issue of attitude towards God. It focuses on the attitude towards community, and the different people will take away different things. Somebody will be like, "Oh, but it says in the Bible this, so I must change my life because of it." And somebody else will say, "I have good friends there, and we all agree that Jesus is nice." And those are two valid ways of existing within a religion, and those are two different religiosity. They're two different sort of attitudes for religion, right? But they're equally valid because they're just as valid as you living in capitalism. And of course, it's a difficult comparison, but it's just as valid as you having money and still be critical of capitalism. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but are people critical of their religion?
If you're going to go to church and you're going to say, I don't really care about what says in the Bible, I just like praying and I like the peace that it brings me, you're still being critical. It's just you're not being critical. You're not following everything to the letter.
There
right?
are layers. It varies.
So you're not praying. You're just meditating.
There's religions like that.
There's a wide spectrum of people, because there are definitely the people that are basically Bible scholars, and they know, like, you say a name and a few numbers, and they know what it means, and they've spent literally a week deliberating on what they think that means to them, and so on. Like, there's people who definitely critically think on that level, but then there's also the people that just you get like 30 seconds into a religious conversation and you're not even trying to antagonize them, but you accidentally ask a question they've never asked themselves before, and it kind of shakes
You're
them.
Satan all of a sudden.
And they are immediately mad at you and leave, and you don't fully understand what happened.
Yeah, those are the people. Those are the people I'm talking about.
But you
those
also
are the
like,
problems.
but you need to be aware of that. You need to be there's certain sects of religions, certain religions that are a lot worse.
I don't care about
you know?
I don't care about made up things that make you feel good at night. What I care about is do you critically go into all information you receive? Like when someone says something or you read something,
you're coming at it
like how
you're coming at it from.
I would argue. And here's a good example. 90% of everything people say is probably a lie. And you're going to need...
like Anna being able to headshot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was fucking wrong. Yes, she can't headshot. I was a fucking idiot. I thought she could. And I was a super fucking idiot.
Yeah, you were real smug about it, and then I accepted it from you. And then I was like, "You guys are full of shit," because Andrew's played this game for hundreds of hours, and he's telling me it, so he's clearly right. Yeah, no. If you headshot as Anna, it does the same thing as a body shot. No matter where you shoot somebody, it does the same damage over time or heal over time.
And I am completely the fucking idiot there. Just completely the fucking idiot. And that's fine, because now as Anna, I don't aim for the head. I just shoot people wherever the fuck I get them. In the leg, in the body, in the butt. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna shoot you. It's the same damage. So like, but I don't tell people that. I don't tell people Ana does headshots, and that's fine. I didn't stop playing Overwatch because I was wrong about how fucking Ana worked. I didn't stop playing Ana. I just accept that I'm wrong, which is a thing that I am every single day of my life. I adapt, I learn, I move on. That's the thing I don't get, is the people Andrew, who don't want to do that.
You're looking at it. Yeah, I don't think you should do that though.
Why?
You're looking at, because that's the way you are. It doesn't mean that everybody should be like that.
But I don't.
And certainly, you know what I mean? If somebody is like,
you should question everything. Everything should be questionable. There are no truth, no facts, no.
But Andrew, you don't question everything. Nobody does that. We all have our blind spots.
I mean, there are things that I think I'm confident in, and then when someone tells me I'm wrong, I look up to see if I'm wrong, and if I am, I change my view.
But like.
Everyone should do that. That's a base level. That's like that's level 1. That is level 1 of like the fifth level. The fifth level is knowing everything.
What's the fifth key? What's the fifth note in a C major scale?
I don't know. I don't know music.
Yeah, you don't question. See, if I tell you that's a D, then you don't question if I'm right or not, right?
Well, I don't know music, so I would have to look it up and see if you're wrong.
But it doesn't matter because you don't really care for it. Like, I'm just throwing an example out there. You know what I mean?
I'm saying really a phrase. Like, if you're saying...
the issue with that example, I think, is that it's so divorced from his experience base that it's less that he's going to absorb your information non-critically and then continue with it. It's more that he's going to hear something uninteresting that he has no context for, and something technical is going to be mentioned, and then he's going to immediately forget that you ever said it.
Yeah. Like it's... That's the thing.
That just buttresses my point. Like, we all have our blind spots. They might be in different places, but we don't question everything.
Which is fine. Tell you, I get that. I'm accepting that.
There's also no stakes.
I can't get everyone to be perfect. I just want people to understand that they are not. Like, that's what I'm trying to get. When you come up and tell me that such and such is opening Napa for his winery, and I go, is that true? Where did you find that? And you go, oh, it's definitely true. That's not the right answer. The right answer is, let me show you where I saw that. Let me bring out the sources. When I say something, like I say, oh, I read an article about something, I try to go and find that article immediately, because I cannot tell you word for word what was in that article, but I remember the contents of it, but I don't know the exact specifications. But I know I read the article, and I'm going to find the article, I'm going to tell you the article, then I'm going to tell you the facts, so that way I don't fuck it up. That's the way I approach it.
But are you saving that person from thinking something wrong in the future in that same subject?
The point is, if you're wrong, you should be told you're wrong, and then you should on your own, do the research to either find out if you were wrong or if that person was bullshitting you. And if they were bullshitting you, then you go back to the person next time and you go, you were bullshitting me. This is a completely wrong thing. Like,
but I think that's similar to giving a person a fish or teaching them to fish themselves. And sometimes there's people who, you know what I mean? Because like, if you just say, no, you're wrong, look at this. That's just giving them the fish, right?
So you're saying basically like the idea of teaching somebody that they are wrong about a thing does not teach them to not be wrong.
Yeah. No, but Andrew is even going more than that.
Someone to
they either
not
give
be
or
wrong.
take that one data point a la carte and then move on with their life, and it doesn't change their behavior patterns.
But that's the problem. Is like I don't have a way to get people to critically think. There's no like,
because you would hope that if you keep correcting somebody and they keep being wrong, they would start to question their methods, but they tend to not.
That's the point I'm saying. It's like if you're wrong so consistently, then you should start thinking more about why you're wrong consistently. Like, what is the thing that's, like, what's fucking you here? Is it because all your news comes from a Facebook group called, like, LOL 420 fucking let's raw dog on the Democrats? Like, that might be the reason you're getting bad information. You should maybe, like, look at a different place. But
the thing is, some people, because of the exhausting nature of life, and because of that,
that's a fucking excuse. That's a fucking excuse. It's definitely an excuse. I am exhausted every day after work, and I still took a week of my time to research information so I got the fucking right voting ballots. If that's too hard for people, then fuck off. Like, that's unacceptable.
I'm not saying it's an excuse for me. Like, yes, it is an excuse, but it is a reality.
For anybody.
You need to understand that it happens, and more than that, you need to understand that the status quo, the people who benefit from the status quo, they know it happens and they do it on purpose because they benefit from it. But, so it's even worse than that.
I mean, in that argument, then you can just apply that to all bad habits. Like, oh well, that's just the way of life, and it's like, no, it's not. That's a way of life that is being constantly positively reinforced by nobody pushing you off the cliff until you get it right. Like,
but when you push them towards wherever, off the cliff or otherwise, you need to understand that. You need to understand that there's a reason behind that. Because if you don't address the issue, or if you don't at least show them why they might have wrong political ideas, and if you don't tell them they want to keep you in the dark, and they do it because of this, because you're tired, and because you go to a Facebook group to feel nice and just rag on Democrats or whoever. If you don't know that yourself, you can't tell the other person, and if you can't identify,
that's why you're asking.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but that's why you ask. Like, when they say something, you go, "Where did you hear that? Tell me where you found that at. Where was that from?" Because then they have to sit there and they have to tell you where they got it. And if they don't know, they go, "I don't know." But you're gonna say that. You're gonna say it with your fucking mouth out loud, a thing that you can't confirm or deny. Because what? How? Where? So, like, you're going to purposely spread misinformation to other people willfully, doing something that bad on purpose.
It's not on purpose.
It fucking is on purpose. You just said a thing without any basis for the background for why you said the thing, and you're going to say it to other people without having any clue as to where you got that information from or if it's verifiably true. And so if that person asks you a question, you cannot back it up, which means you are specifically, purposely, maliciously misinforming
I don't
somebody.
Think so.
That is the way I see it.
Saying something
I don't know about music, so I'm not going to tell you. I can't tell you what the thing you said is true or not. But I'm also not going to tell you.
Anna, though.
No, I didn't tell you about Anna. I told Keith.
Yeah,
about Anna.
But exactly in the same circumstances, though. It's like it's the thing. Like, you're not consciously doing it. But then when Keith came back and
told me I was wrong, I didn't deny that.
But if he did, okay, maybe it's a bad example. But what I mean is, I think I was going to say 90% of the people, more than that, most likely, but 90% of people work like that for the vast majority of things we say. We say, and I include myself in that, we say things that we believe are true, but if you ask me, where'd you hear that? How do you know it's true? I can't tell you. I don't know. This is what I believe.
And if someone asks me that, and I can't reply with, "Oh, I know exactly where the answer is," then you just go, I don't know. I actually don't know. And then that is that should be a tip for a person hearing that, going, that's pretty fucking suspicious. I'm not going to listen to some person who doesn't even know their sources. Like, yeah, that should be like in Keith's example for Ana. I have all this time with playing Ana, and arguably the reason I believed it was because of all the time I played and I shot people in the head. I just thought it worked because every character has headshot ability. So why would Ana be any different? That's my basis. And it's not like I sat there and I shot every individual person and saw how much damage each does for a headshot and realized, oh, that's weird. Ana doesn't actually do headshot damage. Like I didn't do that part. So that's why I failed. But the difference is like, if Keith had stopped, like what he did basically is Keith had heard other information and go, that seems incorrect, and then tells me that's incorrect, and then I just immediately test and go, oh, is it incorrect? Oh, it is incorrect. Okay, then we have progressed here. Like, the part like where Keith is just assuming that I was right because I have the hours is like that is a normal thing that people do, and I concede that I don't take anything at face value because I'm always proven wrong. That whenever I listen to people, I'm always looking like the idiot for listening to people. So I intrinsically or instinctively do not believe what other people say because they're almost always wrong. And my problem is why don't people apply that to everything? Why don't they apply it to politics, to religion, to health, to like there are so many facets that are easy to be, there are so many parts of your life that are easy for people to fill with misinformation that can shape the entire way that you live your life to a detriment to yourself. That why wouldn't you just be critical in thinking about stuff when it's pointed out?
Part of it's the fact that you can never become an expert in everything. And so in many elements of life, for example, when you bring up medical, you defer to experts as best you can and hope that they have your best interest at heart, which is like a bit of a meme on some levels. The fact that like everyone has to do that with the auto mechanic stuff and everyone feels like they're getting fucked over by their mechanics just lying to them about what their car needs or what it costs and so on, or they just don't do the thing they claim to do. But
there are multiple experts. You can go to different experts. You can find
if you have the time, or if you have the interest, or if you know.
If you care enough,
it takes, and it's a lot of work to get out ahead of somebody's accidental lie or misinformation spread and so on.
Yeah,
like I encountered one in the wild because one of my favorite YouTube channels on YouTube is Timba on Toast. I'm looking at them right now. They have 19,000 subscribers, which is a bummer. But I've watched their entire James O'Keefe and Project Veritas documentary series that's 4.5 hours long so far, and I think has more coming in coming months. They're like feature-length sections that come out every few months. And like only because I had put that much time into watching that series did I know that somebody was saying something completely insane when somebody came out and claimed in my life that Planned Parenthood was created as a eugenics program to remove black people. And it's like if I heard that insane claim, I would probably be immediately suspicious, but I would have no idea why they think that, where that's coming from, and so on. But it was only because I'd already been pre-educated about that exact concept. I'm like, oh, this is some Project Veritas bullshit. I'd already know about this, that I could call them out on exactly what's going on and why they think they know that and where that came from and that entire bizarre well, because in this one rare case, I already know about the winery. But it's so much work to get out ahead of all of those things and be able to actually correct people. And that means that people just say, and sometimes insane things, like the idea that that Planned Parenthood is a eugenics program, or that Australians, nothing's illegal unless they literally write down every single condition of that exact thing being illegal, like they're fucking creating a missed age in their book. Until you know exactly those things in such detail and educate, it's so much easier. There's such a difference in inertia between accepting strange theories like you swallow 8 spiders in your sleep every year, or the idea that fucking daddy longlegs are the most poisonous spider in the entire world, but their fangs are too small to actually puncture your skin, so they're harmless. Like, you hear those completely insane things.
That's such an interesting mixture of myths.
And it is so much more work to know why they're wrong than to just hear it and move on with your life. And then in many cases, accidentally internalize things that you've never verified, because you can't. All of your thoughts don't come with like bibliographies that remind you where you heard them and why you think you know them and so on. And that is like an endless, infinite prism. And one of the funniest things ever was finding out that daddy longlegs not only are not incredibly poisonous, but they're also not spiders.
Yeah, they're not spiders. Like,
they're
what
not
the
spiders,
fuck?
Yeah. Fun fact, all spiders are poisonous, and it is the fact that a vast majority of them won't be able to poison us because their fangs are too short. But
what?
Daddy longlegs are fucking
all them hunt with poison.
They're like a little puck with legs.
Yeah, they're not spiders. I wasn't even sure they had poison.
No, they don't have poison. They're just arachnids, but they are arachnids in the way that like scorpions are arachnids, because it's just
right.
that whole 8-legged family. But they are not they're not spiders.
It's just a fucking dust ball with legs.
They're weird looking. They're weird looking. I went to my grandpa's house at one point in Texas, and I walked out their back door, and it had an overhang where the second floor stuck out a bit over the bottom floor, so it's like a little porch shaded area. And I look up, and the entire ceiling outside is covered in just a network of daddy longlegs. Just every fucking inch of the ceiling above me.
It is so weird.
It's just covered in them.
It's like fur, isn't it?
It's terrifying. It looks like some of the fucking haunts that happen in Silent Hill 4, where the wall starts rotting and turning into an organism or something. Or like that one time I saw like migrating monarch butterflies, and I look up, and we were supposed to see where the butterflies are, and I look up and I see the tree, and I'm like, I just see a tree, I don't see anything. And then you realize, oh, that tree doesn't have leaves. Those are all butterflies. That whole tree is butterflies.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
I saw a picture once of a nest of daddy longlegs, and they just looked like a ball of fur, and somebody just messed around with a stick in them, and it just all dispersed immediately, and it's just daddy longlegs for days everywhere, because it's enormous. It's an enormous ball, like the size of a rugby ball or something, and it's just fur, because it's the legs, because they have their heads all butted together or something.
Just like crush them or something. Why are they?
Don't kill them. Many of they kill the mosquitoes. I hate mosquitoes. I have spiders everywhere in my room.
There's good luck.
You don't like mosquitoes?
And I'm just saying, good luck on trying to stop mosquitoes. Like, we can't rely on insects because they've done no fucking job so far.
I actually do rely on insects. I rely on spiders in my room to not have flies, and I don't.
Yeah, I rely on spiders to kill actual like insects, not mosquitoes. They won't do anything about mosquitoes. Everyone just kind of like I think mosquitoes get a free pass.
I don't get mosquitoes. Maybe it's different mosquitoes there in California.
I just think mosquitoes are smarter than flies or something.
Than spiders?
Apparently.
No, mosquitoes are dumb as hell. Like, you can smash them in the face. They can't see anything.
I feel like I get bit by mosquitoes at least enough more than I see flies in my home. And that, to me, tells me, like, there's some kind of imbalance in the force. Like, something about...
You might attract them. There's some people who do attract more than normal.
Yeah, I get bit up here and there. We just have, like... We have an incumbent fucking mosquito population in our house. Like, whatever it is, because I keep killing mosquitoes, and there's just always more. So I like, at some point, we hit, like, a critical mass where it's just, like... there's just a life cycle of them reproducing. I think somewhere in here, and it doesn't help.
If you have standing water somewhere,
that's part of the issue. Is I think there's a lot of fish tanks, and it's like, oh fuck, are we just fucked? But also there's the issue that like our front door has a little shade, and I swear bugs just like fly in circles there all day. So every time anyone uses the door, something might get in every single time, and it's just like this is like an almost unsolvable problem. We need to have like one of those fucking like negative pressure door fans that people have at businesses that blow out the door every time you open it.
Just get a lot of spiders in the house.
No, I hate that idea so much.
I mean, it would make much more sense just to have like a constantly burning incense by your front door than it would to have like spiders.
There's other ways of doing it. Like there's these little
Poison
tapes
them.
full of glue and attracts flies and mosquitoes. They look super gross because they're full of flies and mosquitoes, but that does the job as well.
Yeah, well, they also have like little what is it?
Connected to the electricity.
No, I made my own. There's you can get a mason jar, and I 3D printed a top for it. That's a fly trap. And then
I've seen those.
You go to the store and they sell this powder stuff that you put in, and you mix it with water, and it creates like a scent that is in a lab bioengineered to attract flies.
But it's for only flies, not mosquitoes.
And so they all fly in, and then like after a week, you have to empty it out because there's a bunch of dead, withering fly corpse in there. And then you repeat the cycle, and you can do it for bees and wasps and mosquitoes.
You shouldn't kill bees and wasps.
Well, you shouldn't, but you know.
I mean, unless they're
fuck wasps.
Well, sorry, yeah, you can kill wasps.
They're pollinators as well.
But guess what? They're also a risk to bees, and bees are way more important than wasps.
But not all of them. Not all wasps are a risk to bees.
No,
although I don't know how it is in California.
But wasps do not produce anything that I give a shit about. Bees do, so I want bees all the time.
But they kill nasty creatures and that are bad that kill bees.
So do
and
spiders.
Yeah, spiders are nice.
And spiders
not
aren't
the big spiders. Big spiders don't hunt bees. Don't hunt flies. Like tarantulas, Keith. Don't get ideas. Don't put tarantulas hunting spiders. Hunting, flies, because that doesn't work. Tarantulas can't kill your mosquitoes.
I think
tarantulas are the only spiders we have.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's just you need to get the proper ones, not tarantulas. That's for hunting rats or something. What do they eat?
Rats.
I don't know. I've seen them. I've just seen them in the wild, in the desert.
I think they can also eat bigger insects.
I think it's just whatever they can catch.
They could probably eat crickets
and
grasshoppers.
Stuff,
They could
They're
probably
big chunky
eat...
boys. They're like the size of your hand.
I know.
God,
It's really trippy watching them move slowly. Because on one of my geologic trips, I saw fast. One of them when the sun was setting, and we just walked by, and it was just moving. It was like watching a spider in slow motion. Like all that skittering that they do, like all 8 of its legs were moving at the exact same pattern it would be doing if it was going fast, but it was moving like 1 inch per second. So it was like a slow motion spider. Like it doesn't have a different walk like horses and people do and whatnot. It just has like slower walking. So it was doing the exact same cycle in like slow motion, and it was just very gradually making its way across this clearing, like it was conserving energy in the cold or something. It was just like a strange trippy thing. I hate spiders, but only when they're like in my house, because that's mostly because I'm idle here. Like I go to the shower, and I go to my computer, and I go to bed, and I just do things where I idle and I surrender to my environment and trust in my own unperturbed safety and whatnot. And that's when like they can just come descending down and come after me, and that's just like an uncomfortable thought. Whereas when you see them in the wild, it's like, oh, look at that thing's fucking neat. It's also notably hours from where I sleep. So now it's just a fun experience. Like, check out this tarantula. It's not in my house. It's my favorite thing about it. Second favorite thing is that it's got a bunch of legs.
If it's defanged, it shouldn't be a problem, right?
Well, it's a wild tarantula.
Oh, the one, yeah.
Stephanie does have at least one tarantula. I don't know if it has fangs or not, but I don't think tarantulas are normally really a threat to people anyway.
Are they not?
Some are.
So.
I've seen a video that the longer ones, there's some that are like yellower and longer. Those are a little bit more aggressive, but the big fluffy ones.
Yeah. The ones that people have as pets are normally the ones that are fuzzy brown ones.
Yeah, those are chiller.
I don't like that at all. I don't like the bigger an insect gets, the faster I am to kill it. So
a tarantula is not an insect.
So like if there's a scale, the bigger an insect, the faster you will see me kill it upon seeing it, is how you would gauge that. And so like a daddy long legs, I am completely pacifist about. I care very little about its existence, and it poses nothing to me. But like seeing a giant moth on the side of my apartment building when I'm going out for a walk.
Moths are pollinators as well.
What was that?
They're pollinators as well.
Well, don't get too big then. I don't accept that. So
You go aggro on moths?
if they're big, if they're big enough.
They're
I saw
really
a moth,
dumb, though.
I saw a moth that was like it was laying on the, it was like sitting on the wall, and just sitting on the wall, its wingspan was about the size of my hand, and it was like,
Yeah,
all right,
well,
took the shoe off and smack right on the wall. No
Holy
more.
crap.
Damn.
Nope, you
Murder.
cannot. I will not let you be that big of an insect near me. That's your.
I would
you
see
cannot
that.
do that.
It's like you're afraid of them taking over. I would see that and be like, oh, that's fucking neat.
Yeah,
Oh,
moths are pretty neat.
But also,
It's-
it's that motionless. It's probably dying.
Well, I get a nice view of it. It's still on the wall. No one's cleaned it up. It's still there to this day, just sitting there.
I don't like that
I-
either.
I
yeah,
mean,
no.
it's not alive. I've made some mistakes in my life where insects have come back to haunt me. Where I remember in like Palm Springs having a vacation, and me and Mackenzie went out. Or coming back from the pool, and there's this huge, fat, disgusting, like cicada-looking thing. I think it was a locust actually, but it was just sitting there on the door, and we couldn't get into the room, into our hotel room, because this fucking giant locust was there. And so we both did rock paper scissors 3 times. I lost. I went over and I smacked it with my shoe, and went on the ground. Everything was fine. Day was saved. We both went and had a great sleep. Wake up the next morning, the corpse is gone. Oh, okay, that's weird. Well, I guess something ate it or whatever, maybe. And come back the next time from the pool, and there's 3 locusts on the door. And we went, fuck, man. I
He
think
went and got his friends.
yeah, I think we did something wrong. And so we both have, instead of doing rock, paper, scissors, we both have to kill the locusts. Because there's too many locusts. We can't do it by one person. So
you
we
need
both,
to gang up on them.
yeah, so I went down the stairs, went to the other side of the building, went the stairs up to the other side so I can get on the other side of the door. And then we both walked to the door, and we both hit as many locusts as we could. And then we went back inside. And then the next time, there were more locusts, and that was the point where we went, okay, we can't kill the locusts anymore.
The house is cursed. The house is cursed.
Well, it was fine. We only stayed there for 3 days, so I don't know what. To this day,
On
I'm
the
sure
4th day, the house would have been gone because the
That's-
locusts would have just.
that's my assumption. Is that
ate
we
it.
left, and then the next day, the entire building was consumed by locusts, like some Courage the Cowardly Dog episode.
It's like,
But-
I can't believe you guys
Junji
weren't able to
situations.
single-handedly wipe out the creature most known for being an infinite, endlessly reproducing swarm.
But it goes to my point. If something is big enough, it needs to die, because otherwise it could just consume and take over. And even if just one at a time, you will eventually, they will eventually die out, or they won't stop, or they'll stop coming near you. And that's all I can ask for.
What about cows, though?
I mean,
They're pretty big.
I would love to kill all cows on the planet. It would be fantastic to do that. They are not much benefit to me. Besides, I guess I eat them
for
sometimes.
the environment. Yes.
But I actually don't really like beef. It's not my favorite food. I much prefer chicken. It's a lot nicer. So
Yeah, I've
And
pretty
chick-
much stopped eating all red meat.
yeah,
And chicken, yeah, me as well.
I
Chicken
pretty
has
much
the
just
advantage
eat-
of
I
being
pretty much just eat
really
chicken
dumb.
and fish.
yeah. If I could eat fish every day, I would do so. The problem is that trying to find good fish inland, even in California, is not great. I would like
food
it
You
more.
know, I'm a trash person. I just buy these these packs of frozen swai fillets.
Oh God.
Is it
It's
not
like, oh,
good?
that's a decent amount of fish, and it's a whole bunch of them in one pack. It's like, all right, I can work from there.
I get my fish from the butcher in the grocery store, so I go there and I ask them for give me a pound of shrimp, and then I throw it in the freezer.
Shrimp
and I
isn't
take out-
fish.
Huh?
Shrimp isn't fish.
Well, I get shrimp, I get catfish, I
Okay.
get salmon,
Ooh,
I get
I don't like catfish. That's
codfish.
so,
That's
that's just bad sardine.
There's just
Bad-
a seafood section in the butcher, and I go there and I get my seafood there, and then I go home, throw it in the freezer, and then just take it out as I need it.
Don't they sell pre-frozen stuff?
They do
is
sell
it-
pre-frozen stuff. Most of it's already set up the way you want it. Like if you want it breaded, it's already breaded. If you want it not baked. It's what's the word I'm looking for?
Delayed?
Not filleted. It's when it has the oily crust around it, like it's already been dipped in oil.
Seasoned.
Not seasoned, but like actually like frying oil, like fish and chips, like in British fish and chips, like that kind of. They already have like.
Oh, you mean like the deep fried like crust?
Yeah,
that's
deep fried.
That's not breading.
Yeah, the deep fried crust. There's some you can get frozen ones that are those, and there's. I don't trust food or like fish or meat that is in the packaged area like that.
I just don't like waiting. So
that's fair.
I don't deal with any of the
I've started
breaded
doing
things or the deep fried things and whatnot because you're supposed to prepare those by putting them in like a toaster oven or something. And it's like I'm very proactive about cooking, and that I just go straight to a skillet over and over again. I'm just cooking on stovetops, and I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna do all the steps. It'll be done, and then I leave. And I'm never there's no like set it and then come back later process for any of my cooking ever these days.
Mine is definitely I'm in the process phase where I set the timer. I walk away. I play a game or I watch an anime, and then my thing yells at me 30 minutes later. It's like, "Oh, take it out," and I'm like, "All right," and then I have food.
Part of me doesn't like the idea of like being on call, like where I leave and I'm waiting for something, so I can't really commit to anything fully because I have to be ready to interrupt it for whatever, and that kind of feeling. But also, I always feel like I never quite get it right either. But no, I'm always like, I take this frozen fish and I put it on a pan, and I'm cooking it down on both sides and like flipping it here and there until it's getting better, and then halfway through I add a bunch of like veggies into the pan and some seasoning, and then I keep it cooked until it's like getting flaky and ready to start coming apart. And then because I'm also lazy and don't like to get more things dirty that I have to clean later, I then take the spatula that I'm using, because I have this one plastic spatula that I use for a huge number of the things I cook. When the fish is getting like cooked and flaky enough, I just take the spatula and I stab it, because the spatula is wide enough that I can just sever the fish. So I just quickly go down the fish, and that quickly turns it into a bunch of little strips. And so then I don't have to come back and try to cut it up later with like any kind of other utensil, because it's just already apart. And then I stir the chunks of fish with the veggies, and then I put that in a bowl, and then I eat that I'm like, haha, I only need a fork. Put like teriyaki sauce or something on top of that.
That's my school of cooking as well. Although not with the fish, I don't like it.
Yeah, my most common thing has been a swai fillet with mixed veggies, and then I microwave a bag of fried rice. And so then I put the fried rice in the bowl, then pour the veggies and fish over that, then pour teriyaki sauce over that.
I kickstarted a cooking sheet, and they're called like cheat sheets, and it's so. You get a cooking sheet, and then you get these not plastic. They're it's some kind of material that's good. You can put in the oven, and it doesn't melt or anything like that. And it's not plastic, so it doesn't like get stuff on the food. It's this kind of material, and you put it, and it comes in different shapes and sizes. And so you in the cooking sheet or cooking tray, you put the amount, the size boxes you want or whatever, and so you can put like your peas or your vegetables in one, and then your meat in the other, and then whatever else in the other, and then you put it in the oven. And so what I do is I cook complete meals with just one tray, and then I just keep adjusting. I just adjust the temperature accordingly. So like, for example, if I'm cooking fish, then I'm cooking it at a certain degree in the oven, and I'll cook along with vegetables. And so I just do the math of, okay, well, if the vegetables need to be cooked on, 300 degrees for 30 minutes, and if I'm cooking the fish at 420 degrees, then I can cut off this much time from the vegetables. And then once the fish is finished cooking, if it's not within the time before the vegetables are finished, I can lower the heat on the oven for the vegetables, and then cook the remainder of the time normally, like that sort of stuff. So there's like a lot of planning in the beginning, but then once the execution happens, it's a lot less. Like, it's a lot easier, and then I can get a huge, full, like, nice meal at the end of it, rather than I hate doing the thing where I have like 6 pots and pans and I'm trying to like fuck around with that, and like then I got to clean all those at the end of it, and then it's just like I'm sitting there and I basically did a full round course meal for a restaurant, but I don't got any staff. It's just me. I'm the idiot. So I'm like, oh, cool. I have a really nice meal. I sit down and I look over and there's like 17 dishes in the sink. And I'm like, well, I wish I had a busboy or something so I could clean
I'm a
these
real
dishes.
piece of shit when I'm cooking, where I'm like, I do not want to deal with a bunch of dishes afterwards. So if I'm cooking stuff that ideally should be cooked in a parallel pan on the same stovetop, I'm like, I'm going to find a way to put it in the same pan. I'm just going to find a way, because I don't want more dishes. I want I want one pan of dishes maximum.
Yeah, that's why I like the things. So the things that I cook in, that I was talking about, the cheat sheet things, when you're done with them, you can just they comes with tops, so you can put the top on it and put it in the fridge. And so all I do is once I finish cooking the individual pieces, then I just take it out, I take the part I want out, put the lid on, and then I put the rest in the fridge. Done. I don't have to. That's the easy part. And then when I'm done, when I finish eating all of it, then I can clean it out. But I can, you're staggering the cleaning rather than having to do it all at once. Like, you cook, then you clean, then you eat, or you cook, you eat, then you clean. There's no good system for that. But it is nice if you cook, you eat, and then you live your life. Oh, and now it's time to clean way later, like super later in the future. And you're like, oh, this is perfect. Like, now I have the time to clean. So, I don't know. Cooking is a pain in the ass, especially when
I just microwave a lot of stuff.
That's exactly the habit I'm trying to break. Is that I had my dark ages where I lived at Marty's place, and there was not enough. We call those the bachelor ages. There was a period where there were like 6 people competing for space in one fridge, basically. So like having and storing food was rough, and I was working both my government job and being a full-time YouTuber at the same time, which was basically like the most mentally unhealthy thing I've ever done, even though it got me where I am. And like, while that's all going on, it's just like, I would make like one trip to Sam's Club per month, basically, to get all of my groceries and then keep them in like this freezer in the garage. And then I was pretty much just I was pretty much living out of a microwave like every day. So I'd have as Andrew's aware of, I'd have like that fucking microwavable breakfast sandwich every morning. And then like I had like a variety of different, like, usually it's like there was like gyudon and stuff like that. Like there's different like this kind of thing over rice, microwavable dishes were like my daily food every day. And it was just like a thing, because I was just like, I need every single moment I'm awake to do one of my 2 jobs. So I'm just going to do this like affordable, not time consuming thing that makes me eat every day, and that's just gonna be how I live. And it was not great. So now, like,
that's not what I do though. Like I basically cook a batch of rice and I take it out and I mix it with other things, or some potatoes that go well in the microwave as well. I just heat it up in the microwave. Like, I cook it first, but then I just eat it when I need to.
It's like yours is more like one of those like Japanese cooking shows where you cook it out of a microwave.
Sorry? No, I'm not sure.
The gourmet microwave cooking show.
No. Like, imagine I make like, I don't know, a big, I say big, but a Tupperware full of rice. And I just have some hamburgers or some dumplings or some I like mushrooms with tofu or eggs or whatever. And then the veggies, I don't cook them. I usually don't. But then all you need to do is cook all that stuff in a day, or like some day of the week. I cook that. Usually it's either me or my sister. And then we put it in because we live in the same house. We put it in the freezer, not the freezer, in the freezer. And then we just take it out. We take our what we want, put it in the dish, and just put it in the microwave, and it gets hot. Not what? What the heck? Yeah. So yeah, simple. It's not like microwavable dishes. It's microwaved dishes in a way.
That makes sense.
It just requires the initial making. It requires you to be okay with eating that as well, because it's not warm in the same way that a freshly cooked dish is warm. So it's a different type of, yeah, it's not as nice.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's just basically not as nice.
I don't know.
I've resigned myself to less than satisfying food.
My biggest
Lifestyle.
hurdle in cooking is always I don't like cooking for myself, because I don't need food.
That was
So
a
it's
hurdle
like-
for me, was like the idea that like cooking for a family or a group was like the context in which I learned about cooking. So then once I was living on my own, it was like it's like cook for myself. That's like going to the movies by myself. You can do that? Why would anyone do that? It's like, oh, that's how you have to live forever. Gotcha.
That's how you get to watch good movies as well. Otherwise, you need to watch whatever. Anyway, unless you have nice friends that know good movies.
Yeah, no, I've had a lot of my best viewing experiences completely alone because you get to just actually watch what you want, which is almost which with my taste is constantly the things that nobody wants to watch.
Yep.
Pretty much. Well, at the end of the day, what matters is that you never, ever, ever eat hot dogs.
I was like, where is this sentence ending?
Pork is the worst meat. There's no good way to eat pork. There's no good way to cook pork. There's no good way to taste pork.
You should come to Portugal. We cook pork every
More
which
like
way.
pork jiggle.
I've had pork in Europe. I've had pork in Japan, and I've had synthetic pork in Dubai, and none of them are good.
You really should come to Portugal.
I do not think pig tastes good. I think it is a
very
pig is a
tastes
low
very
tier
different.
food. It's definitely, I don't know who decided to eat pigs, but they were definitely like at their last straw.
Do you know the history here in Europe? Pigs were very common for just as a nice, easy way of disposing of your excess food. So you'd have a pig, and it's a nice way as well as storing food, because you have the pig, you get the pig fat, and then you eat it for the winter. And so at least here in Portugal, it was very common, and in Spain as well, for just farmhouses to eat whatever they would have during the year, and then they would keep the pig fat, or fatten the pig, and then it changes from place to place when you would actually get the pig killed, but it's right around the beginning of fall, and then you do whatever you need to do with the pig, because the pig, historically speaking, it's got a lot of things. You got the lard, it's got the leather, and of course the meat. You could sell parts of the pig as well to make a quick buck. So yeah, it's very different from every other kind of meat in that regard. That's why what I mean is this is the answer to your
question. A lot of the
question.
history of what was eaten was basically what animal can we more or less control that is something that's feasible as a food source, and the most reasonable options just went out.
Yep.
Like there's almost no animals we eat because they tasted the best. That's just not the criteria that existed at the time.
Which is why that's why I'm like saying we're at the point now where I can decide what animal is worth eating. I have endless freedom, and pigs do not get eaten. They are just not good for me. They're not good enough for me to eat. Cows are slowly getting added to that list of just not good enough for me to eat. And
Cow meat is just so caloric, though, for what it tastes like. Even if you like it, it's so fat, and it's you know what I mean. It's just like it's like eating a sandwich of chocolate, and it's like this is nice, but like I'm looking at the amount of calories I'm eating.
I hate the consistency of steak. I think steak is one of the most confusing things. Like it baffles me more that people think that steak has value it triple baffles me that people enjoy eating it.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Like, steak is so shit. You sit there and you're like, this was good on the first chew, and the other 50 chews, not great. Kind of wish I could just get rid of it now.
A lot of my lifetime is just a history of trying to fit in with the idea of everyone idolizing steak and be like, oh, I have to prove myself as a human by liking steak the way you're supposed to or whatever. And then just eventually realizing like, no, I'm never going to like this. I hate this. And then there's an extra level of bafflement with both steak and like wine, where it's like there's this entire elitism. There's like an entire elitism tied to like the correct thing and the taste and so on. And people buy into it so heavily. Like even Stephanie, who doesn't eat meat, will talk about like even I know the correct way to have a steak is medium rare and stuff like that. It's like and then people always talk about like having it like I want it to still be mooing. I want it to be bleeding and everything. And it's like all this weird fucking rhetoric, and it's like, nah, all these are not good. None of these are particularly good as a meal.
I'm not an expert, but I think the whole thing about medium rare has to do probably with tasting the quality, or perceived quality anyway, of the meat, rather than how good it is. People will be like, oh, this medium rare, and they'll enjoy a more expensive steak. But enjoying a more expensive steak is just
like another layer of turning another thing into like a dick measuring contest, where it's like,
exactly,
there's a correct steak and an incorrect steak, and like whether or not you can tell and have the correct opinion is a matter of your own class and status in society. And it's another way to measure people again. And I hate the entire concept
because I like
lobster
medium rare.
Makes sense. I think lobster's a great dish. It's delicious. You can eat a lot of it and even get sick off of it because it's so good you don't stop.
I don't like crab or lobster or shrimp.
Lobster.
See, I think seafood to me is like the top class. Like anything you eat from the ocean is going to be 100% better than anything you get on land.
The thing with food is that you like what you like, and for example, I like medium rare steak. Well, I mean, it's not one of my favorite foods, but I like it. But probably every time I eat steak at home is always as thin slices of the cheapest part of the cow, and I go for it. Like it's not crispy, but it's almost there, and it's hard meat, but it's just thin and it's easy to eat like that. And you just put good gravy on top of it and just some nice potatoes, and it goes well with salad. It's fantastic. And just fries, whatever you want. It's good. It's good. And as long as it's got gravy on it, it's tough, but it doesn't matter. It's like eating, I don't know. It's good. I prefer it that way actually, rather than the medium rare. Because the medium rare, especially if you're not used to where you're eating or where you're getting the meat from, it's a gamble. Because sometimes it's not good meat, and it's like, ugh, it's not good. But other times, yeah, if you like it, you like it.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, I'm not one to. I don't have really any opinions on meat that people, or anything that people can and can't eat. It has to be real food. That's my stipulation. So like fast food isn't actual food, but sure, keep selling it.
Talk about I guess that was like what I said earlier was like a great example of the idea of people just kind of repeating things uncritically that they just heard. It's like an amazing example of that is the idea of like Stephanie echoing opinions about meat she doesn't eat.
Yeah,
like upholding like a shared interest and ideology that people have agreed on is like the correct way to do a thing when it's an entire thing she doesn't engage with. Like, yeah. What part of the brain makes people do that?
It's like some people see. It's like what some people see whiskey is like. You're supposed to not like it.
I mean, I don't know. That's the thing.
I see a lot of people who don't like drinking whiskey, and I can tell easily.
I'm convinced. Okay, so they're
trying to prove themselves to be classy or whatever, or like or the kind of person that would like whiskey because there's like some kind of perceived like status to drinking whiskey of some sort.
Yeah.
I like whiskey because it works good as a chaser. So, or not as a chaser, but it works good with chasers. Like it's great that you can mix it with certain drinks.
But some
like,
people will
I
be
would
like,
never,
that's
I would never
sacrilege.
just drink whiskey straight. Like, what kind of fucking?
Some
I'm not
people will be
trying
like,
to-
what, you mix whiskey? That's not how
Yeah,
you
dude,
do.
whiskey sucks raw.
Whiskey-
It
whiskey-
super sucks raw. It
Some
just
whiskey is good.
burns.
Some whiskey is good raw, but
Look,
if you like it. If you don't like it,
There's
like-
only one thing that should burn when you consume it, and that is spices. If you're consuming a spicy meal, it should burn because that is normal. Drinks should not burn my throat when I drink them. You know what burns my throat when I drink them? Acid. That's what burns my throat.
But that's where the taste comes from.
I drink so little that I always get offered drinks by people that are like, you won't even be able to taste that it has any alcohol in it. It's so watered down, or it's so this or that, and it's like, you don't understand. I don't drink alcohol. Like, you put alcohol in anything and then give it to me, I immediately notice it, because people are like, that are used to it, don't even recognize anymore that alcohol makes drinks feel different.
Oh yeah,
Like, it changes the texture. Like, everything I drink in my life feels like water with like flavor, maybe sugar water, maybe like there's basically two things. There's water, and there's like chunky water, which is like juice with pulp and whatnot. And then there's like soda feel, which is that weird sort of bitey carbonation. But alcohol and anything that contains any alcohol has like this weird, like, rubbing alcohol, gasoline, oily sort of smooth thing that's like really uncanny and creepy if you're not used to drinking it.
Sweetness.
So I detected instantly like a king being poisoned. Like, I can't not immediately notice it every single time, and people always swear I'm not going to notice it, and I'm like, you don't understand. We've done this dance so many times.
Even beer.
Beer. I'll notice beer, but it's different from liquor.
Yeah, liquor is
when people talk about mixed drinks, it's different from beer technically.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, all those things, all the mixed drinks that people claim, you won't be able to notice the thing that's in it, be it whiskey or whatever, or rum or whatever. Every single time, it's like I can feel it. I can physically feel it. It's like rubbing something and like being like, does it feel like linoleum or dog fur? It's like, it's different feel completely. Like, it's not. This is not orange juice. This is orange juice with a trap in it.
Yeah, alcohol for me. I don't know. I like for whiskey in particular. I like that it burns me. Not so much in the throat; it's more in the mouth. But I think that's also where I get the taste. When it's good, I like it. But there's whiskey that I've seen whiskey that is good only if you're not drinking the last little bit of the glass. For example, I've drank whiskey. This is more common. That tastes good with water. And you just add a little bit of water, a splash of water, and it tastes nice because it changes the way. There's some science behind it. I saw a headline once explaining what it was. But, you know, there's no tell. You can buy a cheap whiskey, Jack Daniels, and it just goes down smoothly and it doesn't do much. Or you just, you know, get something more expensive and maybe needs water and it doesn't or whatever. And it's just how you like it. But I agree that because the way alcohol works for me in the mouth is that it sort of changes. It's like drinking something cold. Have you ever seen? Do you have the same experience as I do? It's like drinking a soda or Coca-Cola, for example. Cold tastes different than if it's less cold, or it's just, you know, a little bit.
Drinking a cold carbonated drink makes the bite stronger.
Yeah,
which is the only thing I know what to call like that weird spike to the flavor.
That's what I mean. Alcohol has not a similar reaction, but in the sense of it changes the way
I
your
mostly
mouth
just drink
works.
3 things. I just drink water, coffee, and cock and bull, which is ginger beer.
Oh, I never had any of the
non-alcoholic,
like root beers and ginger beers and all that. The U.S. has a long tradition of that, doesn't it?
I'm like there exclusively just because it's such a strong flavor, and that's kind of what I go for if I have a drink that has any kind of flavor to it. It has to be a really specific kind of strong flavor too, because if it was just like, wow, I'm unbearably sweet, then it's like, I want to throw up. This is bad. But,
do you want to drink bubble gum? I've had drinks that taste of bubble gum.
No, but I'm the weirdo that'll be like, let's drink like I'll go for like cock and bull, and then I'll go for like a blood orange drink or like lemonade, like just something that's like very kind of intense. And it's maybe partly because
is ginger beer,
yeah, and it might be partly because just so much of what I drink every day is almost exclusively just water and coffee.
Coffee is another one. I don't like drinking coffee when it's very hot because it also changes the way my mouth works. But some people like it when it's hot. I'm talking espresso style coffee rather than the big tubs.
No, I just get a cup of black coffee, and if it's really, obviously you don't want to get super hot because you'll hurt yourself. But the colder it gets, the worse it tastes. But it doesn't necessarily start anywhere I want any either. I'm pretty much just take it as a drug. Like I'm just there for my like twice daily caffeine hit, and not because I like coffee in any way. If you add any milk, it's instantly like 100 times better. But if I put creamer in, I feel like I'm just like causing, like I'm like technically this can taste better. Although if I add even 1 teaspoon too much, it tastes overpoweringly, sickeningly sweet. And
have you tried?
But just adding any creamer at all, I feel like I'm just damaging myself. Like I'm making this a significantly less healthy drink by adding creamer.
Have you tried soy milk instead of cow milk?
I don't know. I'm fine with regular milk, and I just already have it in case I need cereal for a fast, low effort meal.
I used to drink coffee every once in a while with cow milk, and then I tried with soy milk, and it just tastes so much better. You don't need to add sugar or anything. It's just like so much better. It's a different flavor, but it's amazing. I love it.
I usually don't even put milk in just because my milk is all the way in because I have a separate fridge in the I have a separate fridge in the garage, and it's quite a walk, and I always insist on wearing shoes because the garage can have so much shit on the floor and so on. So there's like an inertia to whenever I want to go to the fridge. So I almost always deem coffee unworthy of that inertia. So I just drink it black like it's medicine. Like I just power through it and then move on with my day instead of going to get the milk. You don't even add a little
bit of sugar? Because sugar, you don't need to put creamer in it. Just a little bit of sugar.
Nah. Too many steps. Just practice my daily self-hate and drink it raw. Just go.
This is the thing I would drinking like any kind of thing in the US is kind of the thing I hate about Japan's vending machines being so great. Is that there's all these like great coffees or sodas or different types of drinks that are always just like within a walking distance of you. And here I have to like go to a supermarket and I have to buy like 20 of those things if I want them, and I have to fill my fridge with them. And
I mean, just like the endless like vending machines and convenience stores that are always like a little bit away.
Yeah, but like the grocery store I go to doesn't even have a vending machine. There's none. There's no vending machine.
Yeah, so you have
whatsoever.
to buy a pack.
Yeah, so I have to buy like a 6-pack.
Most grocery stores, the aisle has fridges that have single serve drinks. And there's usually an entire aisle also that has like single serve. You can buy an individual can or bottle of a bunch of different beers and drinks. And I mean, that's just a vending machine without the machine.
But
yeah,
the distance is the problem. I'm not within walking distance.
Yeah, well, that's also partly because you're talking about when you visit Japan, you're most likely visiting a very urban environment, and that's not any of the places you've lived in California, for the most part.
Well, yeah, I mean, the first time I went, I stayed like basically in a suburban apartment. So it was down in the neighborhood area, and it was still like a 2.5 minute walk to a grocery store and a vending machine. And I was like, okay, shit. Like, and that's not in, we're not like in the heart of we weren't in the heart of a city. We were pretty, like, we're a train, like 2 train stops away from the city. And it's like, okay, this is great. I wonder how people live like this. And even in the heart of the city, there's still, there's like a 7-Eleven within walking distance, which is, kind of like a vending machine, because same thing. It has like gas stations have all the single serve drinks and stuff. But yeah, I just wish that there was I wish there was like better options too. Cause I don't know. Sometimes I don't like going to, like I go to like a grocery store and I see what we've got there and it's like, okay, well I don't want these. I want different stuff. Where do I get the different stuff?
It's interesting. It's interesting to listen to you talk about drinks because I've always had the impression that the US just has a very different attitude towards the food that you eat. Not necessarily, well, specifically the drinks rather, because I keep seeing it's just so common for people to just try, like the whole. What I mean is, like, I first started... I'm sorry, I'm going around in circles. I first started to think about this when I was introduced to the idea that there are people who are Coke people and Pepsi people. I drink Pepsi and I drink Coke. And I'm like, well, I drink whatever they have, basically. But that when I say that, I'm not really realizing that, you know, Coke people or Pepsi people, they buy it to drink at home. And while there's a lot of people that do that here in Portugal as well, it is a lot more expensive than, like if I wanted to drink, like the way you're talking, basically, if I wanted to drink that here with our average salary that we have here, I wouldn't be able to afford rent or something. I don't know. I don't pay rent. I'm still living in my parents, but you know what I mean. It's just, and I think a lot of people are like that here anyway. It's just the level of availability, or not even availability. It's just how incentivized it is for people to just drink certain drinks instead of water.
I mean, soda's cheap. Soda's really cheep here.
Yeah, it's probably the same price as here, but the thing is,
it's not cheaper than water though. Like water is always cheaper.
Yeah. No, what I mean, like, if I want to buy, like, 2 liters of Coke is probably, like, €1.50 or €2, and I just go and buy it. But that's for a...
I get taken aback sometimes, though, when I go to, like, a Walgreens, and it's like, here's an entire, like, 12-pack of Coke for, like, $4 for some reason. And I'm like, why is that? That seems too cheap somehow. What's going on? Is there something wrong with it? Like, I second guess it.
How expensive is it, normally?
It's so a case is usually about like close to $7.
Mm-hmm.
It's about like about like $7 to $8 for a case, which is like 12.
You really get a sense for how the price of a soda is incredibly made up, because there are so many contexts in life where you can pay $2 to $3 for a can of soda.
Yes.
And then there's other contexts where you see that same brand and it's like a case of like 12 to 18 cans, and it's like the price of where you elsewhere could have paid for like 2 cans. And it's just like it's highly variable because it's how a lot of places make their money, and as a result that it really fucks with your mental image of how much it costs as a product.
That's on
what
purpose.
What I'm saying is that at least here, like I grew up always seeing and knowing that a lot of people, like, even if you pay €50 a month for the drink that you're going to drink, that's prohibitive. That's like, people don't do that. Some people might if they're well off, but it's not very common for like, here anyway. And in the US, I get the impression that's more common for people to just normally pay that, or maybe even more. I don't know.
So it depends. Like soda's really, well, obviously we are the biggest producer of soda. So it's really cheap here. You can there's often times where you can find like for 24 packs, you can get a buy one, get one free deal where, hey, pay like, it's like 15, or not 15, I think it's like $13 for a 24 pack. And then you just pay like the tax for the second one, and bam. And people just do that. You can just you can stock up. You could have like 48. I used to do that for Fanta. I used to drink, I hate
Fanta.
I used to drink at least like 3 cans of Fanta a day.
Would you say that it's not your fantasy?
It's
Fanta's great. I love Fanta. Orange Fanta's the best Fanta.
Oh my god, it hurts my brain just to think about the taste. I hate it.
It's great, isn't it? It's it's so disgustingly sugar. It's like syrupy and sugary, and it's awful. That's true. And I love it. It's great. It's like every drink, you feel like you've killed yourself more, and that's why it's great.
My drinks usually hurt a little bit.
Yeah, that's the point.
Like San Pellegrino.
Oh god.
So San Pellegrino lemonade and stuff.
Yeah,
That's a fucking spike.
those are
very strong.
Those are not recommended for your diabetes friends. Like,
Oh, and that's the other thing. It's like it's also so much sugar. I exclusively drink sugar-free drinks. For me, it's just because there's no reason to drink sugar because like it tastes the same or equivalent. And why would you? Like I can eat. It's like I can. What would I rather do? Drink a can of soda and not eat a, I don't know, sandwich or something, or I drink a can of diet soda and I eat a sandwich for the same calories.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's the thing is soda exists as a pleasurable thing, not as a sustainability. I'm not drinking soda because it's going to quench a thirst or it's going to keep me alive. I'm drinking it because I just have this urge to do so.
But you don't need the sugar for it, though. I mean, unless you really like.
But that's the thing. It's not about the sugar. I'm not getting it for the sustainability. I'm getting it just because I have an urge to drink it. So, like, if I needed sugar,
Andrew's also real specific because he has to play keep away with all the caffeine.
Well, that too.
He
Yeah,
has to carefully buy the right thing or suffer.
Yeah, like a good example is the soda that I drink the most frequently is the Ramu.
The Japanese soda with the ball.
Yeah. It's at my local store. It's just $1. It's $1. They come in like 7 flavors. They're all delicious. So I just go there and I pay.
Those are also pretty small drinks.
They're fairly small. They do have a lot of sugar. They still have like 26 grams of sugar. But they're like, again, I have them. Sugar. I have them like maybe once. Maybe I have like 2 a week is the maximum, and that's it. So I sometimes will have an urge, like I'm eating a dinner or something. Like, you know what, it would really go good with soda. I go in there, I grab a soda, drink a soda with my dinner. The end. Like that's it. It's not something I drink every day because I don't want kidney stones. And and it's, it's not, again, it's not feasible. Like even if it's for $1, what, I buy 7 of them, that's $7. I'm paying $7 for 7 sodas, which are gone in like less than 7 minutes. So like, what is the?
I ended up in a rabbit hole that I'm confused by.
Uh-oh.
So I Google image searched cock and bull.
Oh God.
I was just talking about it. And after scrolling past a bunch of bottles, I got a romance novel with 2 guys with bare-chested, and it says cock and bull story, and it has a silhouette of a bull and a silhouette of a rooster. And so I click on it because it's a Barnes and Noble link, and I read the overview, and it says, and I just want to appreciate the fucking name of this first character, by the way. Toro is a bull shifter. Forced to leave the pro wrestling ring, he works off his aggressions as a street fighter. Galano is a cockerel shifter from a family of famous luchadors. When the irresistible cock meets the immovable bull, sparks are bound to fly, but only if they can fight their way past their own mutual stubbornness. And I'm just like, did somebody write a book about a bull fucking a rooster?
The copywriters of this company, man, they need a raise.
There's like logistical problems there.
I'm wondering about like when they say they have to fight out their problems, like are they doing a bullfight for their problems?
I'm just confused because like do the animals fuck? Or is it just 2 guys that fuck and in separate chapters where they're not fucking, they also turn into animals? But those 2 things are like a Venn diagram with 2 circles that never meet.
I think the
how
idea
is the
here
story
is
structured?
I don't think it's. Oh wait, are they actual?
Because that rooster's gonna explode.
Animals. I think the idea is that they're 2 guys.
Those are not compatible creatures.
And I don't know what a cock is. I've never heard someone described as a cock. I know neither a bull either. I don't know what that means.
No, well, he was called. The first sentence is Toro is a bull shifter. I think that means he turns into a bull. So the other guy turns into the cock, right? And then somehow they do it. And that sounds very dangerous to one of them and not the other one.
They must not. They must not do it in animal form. It must simply be a like.
It's just there's two separate stories happening. One where two guys are going at it, and one where they can turn into a bull and a rooster to go on adventures or something.
I think it's like I think it's like reverse furry, where someone's like, well, I don't want to watch animals fuck, so they turn into humans and then they fuck and then they turn back into animals and go on adventures.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm just so confused by the idea of the story.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know. Don't.
Wow, that's like
Don't.
that
Google
is some
that,
level
I
of
guess.
that whole reverse furry thing is. Wow, can you imagine Sonic the Hedgehog? But that
Sonic the Hedgehog just turns into a man and has sex with the lady from Sonic 06, then just goes back into Sonic's like, I just feel more comfortable this way.
yeah, gotta go fast.
God,
What a
I imagine him
nightmare.
like turning into a human and he's just like a prepubescent, probably in his like 15, 16-year-old with blue hair and
no.
he like has
He's just ninja.
basically, yeah, he just like shows up and he's like,
Isn't Ninja
Hey!
like 20 something?
Ninja's like I don't know what he is.
48.
Is he 48 years old? He's not 48
What?
years
That's
old.
impossible.
I said it in a way that no, he's not. I'm sorry.
No, he's younger than me.
He's 29 years old.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting that you believed me when I said it like that.
I mean, that's why I looked up immediately.
There are
that
some
sounded-
weirdly there's people who are older than you expect, like
Yeah.
like Dan Avidan, where I'm like when he joined Game Grumps, he was like 40 already, and it's like, excuse me, how, what?
Wait,
you somehow look younger than Aaron, but he's very old.
Dan is 40?
He's well past that now because he's been on the show forever, I think. No, he's 41.
He's 41?
Yeah.
Holy shit. I did not realize that.
That fucks with you, right?
Talk about growing up. I'm 41.
That makes me
I did
way
not
more
realize that.
uncomfortable about his... Okay, well, never mind. It's a whole nother problem,
Oh,
I
no.
guess. Yeah. All right, that's fine. Wow, I can see. Yeah, wow. This has not been great news for me to find out.
I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not gonna. It's not worth conversing about. But that is a not good age for him to be.
41 when your age is not good.
That's crazy. He does not look 41. So good for him. I don't know what he does. Drugs. Bathe in children. I'm trying to like find a way to not think about the problem in my head. How old's Aaron?
He's like 32, I think. I think he's only like a couple years older than me.
He is 33. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew. All right.
He
I feel a
was
lot
always
better
just like
about
slightly older than me. I was like, oh, damn it, we're not quite lined up.
that. That makes
You're
sense.
never going to be quite lined up, although you're catching up to him.
Wait, how old is JonTron though?
Why
only-
is this for the fucking...
He's only 30.
This
Wait a
is the
second.
well we're going down.
Okay,
Why does that matter?
So I'm
Wait,
younger.
JonTron
I'm younger
is
than
30?
Yeah, I'm younger than Aaron, but I'm
He looks
older than
50.
John. What a
He
weird
looks
world.
50. You apparently think everyone looks 50.
Wait a second.
I don't trust your gambit.
No,
Wait
that
a
was the only
second.
ninja in JonTron. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is a weird place to be in. Like I'm older than John, but younger than Aaron.
Why is that a weird place to be in? They're just two people that are 3 years apart in age that just exist.
I thought both of them were older than me. I don't know why. I just, for some reason, in my head thought that they were much older because they were successful on the internet when I was younger, and so I assumed that the only people successful on the internet when I was younger were like adults, like older
wow.
people. So
JonTron's like exactly a month older than me.
I'm very
It's
sorry.
like down to the wire.
weird. Huh. Well,
So,
What a great fucking topic for the podcast.
sorry.
no, I was
didn't
gonna say, Senator Graham says if Republicans don't challenge and change the U.S. election system, there will never be another Republican president elected again. President Trump should not concede.
What are they talking about?
I mean, yeah. If
So the
President
reality
Trump,
is that not changing the electoral system is the only way there will continue to be Republicans that get president.
Of course.
The system is uniquely crafted in its current iteration to make it possible for them to win elections that they desperately should not be winning. The fact that they didn't get all the fucking stars to align this time doesn't mean that they should change it because they're fucked. It's like, no, you don't understand. You're fucked because you're completely being left behind by everyone's progress as a society, and your policies aren't popular. And then you win because once we add 17 qualifiers to who wins, you end up winning sometimes via confusing rules that people really struggle to justify.
Also, voter suppression.
Yes,
that's also another thing.
They also actively try to stop people from having their vote count,
which
or
I think is what he's referring to.
It's really impressive the amount of the idea here is Republicans are like, oh shit, this vote in mail thing's kind of dangerous. Everyone's allowed to just vote at home.
Nothing shows more how opportunistic they are than the protesters that were being like, count every vote or stop counting based on what fucking state they were in. Because it's just whatever reality is convenient to them is more important than actually having a system that makes sense.
I mean, I do agree, though.
Consistent integrity.
I think we should stop counting right now. We just don't count any more votes. It's done. We will not count votes ever again. We leave the number as it. No, I just mean not for the rest. That's it. Joe Biden won. We don't count any more votes. We leave it as is. That's it. We win, right? That's what they want. They get what they want. We get what we want. We get a Biden presidency. Yeah. They don't get any votes counted. Everyone wins. We've done it. We've bridged the gap. We did it, guys. We solved politics.
We bridged the gap.
All you have to do is just take everything they say out of such context that the only argument they have is, I didn't.
But that's not. You're assuming that they actually are arguing. It's not. It's a game.
That's what I'm saying. You just tell them. You say, yes, we agree. We won't count any more votes. Joe Biden wins.
When they make these arguments, they never mean what they're saying as being like what they value. It's just the argument that currently makes them win.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're trying to twist their logic. There's no logic.
I remember doing that in 4th grade when I played against other kids with my imagination. I said, nah, you can't win because I have a shield. Wow.
That's basically
it. I've got an anti-force field sword. Well, I've got an anti-force field sword, force field.
Shit. Well, I got nothing. I'm out of here. I'm going home. Fuck you, kids.
It's interesting.
So we brought the subject of the podcast back to the beginning.
You did bring up something interesting earlier, though, when you talked about like living at home and how that's more common there. And you hear about a lot about that in throughout Europe and in Japan and so on, where it's like significantly more common to have like a multi-generational household. And it's like there's something uniquely like frustratingly American and kind of toxic about this particular idea where you're expected to just get the fuck out and go away when you're around like 17 to 19 and then just immediately strike out on your own life. And you're expected to get your own house, even though that's not feasible anymore. And like,
because that was possible. If you don't
move out exactly on schedule and live like the American dream, like right on time, then you have this like intense self-loathing because you're failing as a person.
Yeah.
Here, it's there's still a certain amount of pressure, but it's closely related to marriage. And in my case, it's mostly because I'm poor. Otherwise, I wouldn't be living here.
So like,
it does seem to be more common that in other countries it's more that you when you get married you then move off with that person potentially. Although in some cases, depending on the kind of property they have, there's definitely like multi-generational like Japanese households where the married couple then moves in with one of the sets of parents.
My house is like that. My grandmother and my grandfather lived with us all throughout my life because my dad, who's their son, made a little bit of a house next to theirs, and we're all in the same house.
There's like 3 generational households, and it's a very different concept to me. It's definitely interesting to think about because it's completely unapplicable to my understanding of adult life. Like I have never lived for even a moment with anyone that was in my family besides my parents. Like the concept that my grandparents would live with me is completely alien, even though in a lot of ways like it makes it kind of sense. Like we had a house and we had like the parents' like master bedroom, and then the two kids had their own rooms, and like there was another room that could potentially be a bedroom. And I know that because it used to be my bedroom until I switched bedrooms to a different room. But like, yeah, like other people could have lived in that house in our own family, and it might have even been to the benefit of the family being closer together and so on. But no, like Americans are really fixated, or at least maybe white Americans, I don't know, are really fixated on the idea of like completely spreading out, just scattering to the winds, and then meeting up again for Thanksgiving and birthdays.
The availability and capacity of buying a house is also it's very different. I feel because what happens here, it used to be that you just rent for a little while, or if your parents could afford to buy you a house, you would get the house. But if you rent for a little while and then save up to buy a house for yourself and your family, obviously, that's how you get out. But like the rents, as far as I can tell, everybody rents in the US, except unless you just made it in life and have a million or two.
The American dream version that you're used to, the narrative of, is this idea that you're totally going to get a mortgage and buy a house, and then you're going to like, slowly pay that off over the course of decades and so on. But I think the reality that people are more likely to experience is that, yeah, a lot of people are renting.
So, so the problem is that there has been, which we can't seem to fix in this fucking state. There's a problem with both rent control and the housing market in general. And so in much wealthier states like California, Texas, Seattle, New York, so on, the value of the property isn't consistent with the wages you earn in the state. And so there are houses here, for example, that are not in good areas geographically speaking. Like they're just in valleys and there's nothing there around them. Like there's no good jobs there. All the jobs are in the city that you have to commute to. And those homes can cost upwards to $500,000. And that's the size of home you get is usually about 2 to 1.5 times smaller than a house you would get in, say, Kansas for like $1,500, like for $150,000, and their average wage is not the same. So somehow, like we're making more money, but it's still not enough. And there's no like regulations to prevent ridiculous prices in the housing market, which is the reason why the American dream has failed for most millennials here. Is that when you try to go buy a house, it's like, cool, do you almost have $1 million? And you go, no. And they go,
I'm still paying student debt.
Yeah. You're like, I have debt from a school I had to go to. I might have had medical bills that I have to pay off. I have a car that I have to get around. And so I have to pay that off. And that's like, $30,000. And then they go, yeah, no, you're going to need like way more money. Like you need to put, for like on average, I need to put down close to $50,000 to $90,000 for a house. And I make less than $60,000 a year. I would need to just not spend money for several years to save up for a house, which you cannot do before 18. So good fucking luck. But once you're also renting,
your credit monster,
yeah, and
the one that lives in the closet.
That's a whole nother story. But more importantly is that because there's no rent control, renting for apartments is about as much as is more expensive than it would be to rent a house. But renting a house you can't do unless you have good credit, really good credit.
That's so dumb and that's crazy. That's absolutely phenomenally bad.
So here's the
reason why in the United States there's an entire adage, which is that it's expensive to be poor.
Yes, it's expensive
I understand that. Oh yeah, especially and that's not just housing; it's also food, health. It's just absolutely.
And another part of why voting is important, we had a ballot, we had a proposition on the bill this year about rent control, and it was giving states back, or giving the local government back control over the prices of apartment buildings over a certain age. So, for example, an apartment building that's over 10 years old would not be allowed to be charged the same amount that a brand new apartment building is, because that's not fair. It's not reasonable that an apartment building like built a decade ago is somehow just as valuable as this brand new or like just built apartment complex. And that was denied. That bill got completely rejected because I don't fucking know who lives in buildings anymore, because I would imagine the people living in them don't want to pay this much money for them, but they just keep doing it. They keep saying like, I don't want the government to decide how much rent is. The landlords need to make a living too. And it's like, no, they don't. They really they don't at all. But it's but yeah, because the price is like, I pay more to live in a 1-bedroom apartment that's probably I would probably say not even a third the size of a house. Yeah, it's definitely not that big. And I pay double what I was paying for a 3-bedroom house for the mortgage.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. That is a huge problem. And
here in Portugal is basically, if you the prices are basically, if you're not married, if you're not taking 2 incomes, you're going to use easily half of what you're earning of your salary, basically, likely 2/3, and it's just absolutely incomportable. If you're on minimal wage, this is for rent, not for owning, for rent. If you're on minimum wage, you can't afford a house.
I mean, that's the thing too. I kind of feel a lot of disgruntled towards is that a lot of the world is built with the very, very huge assumption that you're going in this as a co-op. So you can't single player life, because it's apparently not built that way. It's built completely like you have to have 2 incomes, right? Because how else are you going to buy how else do you get a house? How else do you afford buying a new car whenever you need to, like when you're supposed to?
I just like guitars.
Yeah, we live in
capitalism.
We live in a paradox where the best way to survive is to pool resources and live together in one home, and then we're guilted for doing that.
Yeah.
When it's the most reasonable way to deal with anything is to split rent between different people.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I hate it because I'm in a situation where it's like, I would love to have a little bit more room. I would love to have a place for an office, a place for a living room, and a place for sleeping. So that way, I have separate work areas. And like, cause I work all day. And so it'd be nice to like work all day and then leave that room behind and go somewhere else to relax and enjoy, and then go somewhere else to sleep. And, there's just no reasonable way I can do that unless I start making like triple my income. And that doesn't even, and again, this doesn't account for the fact that my credit isn't even remotely good enough to start doing this. I would need to, the amount I'd have to put as a down payment is like $150,000. And that's not great because I will never achieve that. And so like,
I'm pretty sure
it's disparaging and disheartening and super disappointing that all I want is like, I just want a very, very modest sized home. Just enough for me. I'm not looking for like 2 stories or 15,000 acres. I just want like a 2-bedroom place, maybe 3. Maybe I have a guest room, or I don't know, a room that I can go into and just scream at the walls and enjoy that. Just like a very modest, small home that I would imagine. I look on the house listings. They're like $100,000 in these bumfuck nowhere states that no one should ever want to live in. And it's like, why can't I just have that here? The land isn't valuable because there's so much of this damn land that's not built on, so it must not be valuable. It's just like you have to be inflating the price. You have to be lying about how much this house is valued, and like don't do that. It's so weird because I look at other countries that fix this problem, and again I look and go, how do you not communicate? Just ask somebody. go like, hey, South Korea, how do you keep your house prices at a modest amount? Oh, well, actually, when we sell houses back, we have to sell it back to the state. And then the state keeps it at a fixed rate and then sells it back to the next person at a fixed rate. So no one loses money off of it, but no one can profiteer off of it.
Exactly.
Oh, so you didn't give into capitalism. They go, no, yeah, but, you know...
Well, it's just state capitalism. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's like, it was still capitalist, but we didn't, we didn't let the bad part happen, which is, you know, predatory capitalism.
Because that's where the word speculation comes from. It's the speculative nature of the money you're going to be able to make with a house. And so that's why house prices go up, is because you're speculating that you're going to be able to rent it for a bigger amount.
They're completely
Even if you're not
weird. It's completely weird.
I mean, it's not weird. It's how capitalism works. If it doesn't have regulations, that's what happens.
I mean, it's weird to me because the people, I imagine the majority of people living in this state, as an example, the majority of people living in the state cannot afford the homes that they want to afford. Like I would imagine I want to live in my own home. I imagine Keith probably wants to live in his own place. I imagine a lot of people in this state want to live in their own place. So it seems really
like
weird.
More space, but part of me, after having lived with people literally all the time, is part of like I'm going to be lonely. I'm going to be so lonely in my own place.
Yeah, it's a big change.
But like I don't get how anybody just like enjoys the prices here, and I don't know. I don't get why there wouldn't be a push to make better systems in place. Not from propositions, because that's not going to change anything. Just like your state legislators should be like, yeah, this is kind of a pain in the ass, actually. Like, I got to pay, you know, like, I imagine they're the ones banking their kids through college or through a home. And the politicians are like, yeah, this is reasonable. I want to pay this much money for a house or for college.
Oh, they get a lot more though.
Like,
they get so much more for the campaign contributions and stuff like that.
But I'm saying, like, but you still, at the end of the day, you're still spending money. And if you don't have to spend that kind of money, wouldn't you not? If you don't have to spend $500,000 to get a house, wouldn't you not?
But then in come the big like real estate businesses and be like, oh, I want to make a contribution.
But a real estate business doesn't make a society function. It's the people that live in it. And those people are the ones that you're punishing for the decision of a company. And the company is not what keeps a country moving. It's the people in the country.
Suffer. They don't complain. What are they going to do? Vote Republican?
I mean, that's the thing, though, is like I'm
being facetious.
I don't get why. And again, this just all goes back to like the American dream. It's a nice tagline we get in growing up in school of like the idea of a nuclear household. You have 1.5 kids, a husband, a wife, a dog.
Shouldn't it be 2.5?
You're killing me with nuclear, Andrew.
It's a nuclear family.
No.
At least he's not saying gesturing.
It's not nuclear because it's not clear liquid. Nuclear waste is not clear, so it's not nuclear.
That's not how
it's
anything
not new
works.
either.
Well, then don't put clear in your name if you don't want to be. You only put clear in your name if you're
nucleus.
Clear. Oh yeah, well, how come I can see it then?
That's not. You can't see it.
I can see nuclear waste. I don't need a microscope for it. I can't see a nucleus.
I need a microscope.
My favorite thing about the band Everclear is they're invisible.
Exactly. I don't see them or listen to them, so they must be real.
Mm-hmm.
Or must not be real?
So I've been going for 3 hours now.
Yeah, we desperately need to stop.
In any case.
See you all next time. The funniest thing about this episode to me is it's still going to be less controversial than the one where we talked about Genshin Impact.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's the one thing people get mad more about than politics is their fucking fanboy quota choice. It's like, that's the most incendiary thing you could possibly poke.
By the way, it hasn't gotten any better yet, guys. Genshin Impact's still shit. Haha.
Are you still playing more of it?
No, I stopped playing. I got to the level I needed to get to because now it's all grinding. It's like, all right, you got to start funneling money. I'm like, all right, well, I'm out.
Because you had like kept going for like another week or something, huh?
Yeah, I ended up getting to, so I got to level 25 or adventure level 25. And adventure level 25 is basically like, look, all right, let's be real. You've gotten all the mechanics now. You can just start playing the game.
Andrew,
And
let's not get into Genshin Impact.
No, I'm
otherwise,
just saying,
this episode gets dislikes, and we don't want that.
Oh,
that was the
no.
point where I went, yeah. And so once I reached that point, I went, all right, that's it. I think I've played enough. I'm done, and I left. And so that is
Then
where
we
I
can play
ended.
the wacky guessing game of whether the dislikes are Republicans or
Yes, or people-
weebs.
I mean, I don't
both.
want to make grandiose assumptions, but if you enjoy,
There are a lot
Genshin
of little
Impact,
Moe girl avatars that are very Republicans. So
If you
Andrew's gonna
enjoy
say-
Genshin Impact, you might be a Republican. Because no one could enjoy a game that filthy and disgustingly capitalistic unless you are clearly a far right person. You have to be a straight
All right.
straight ass
the
crazy
bait
businessman.
is set.
So
Yeah,
if I'm
so you
wrong,
guys-
please go in the comment section and tell me I'm wrong. And press every button. Dislike, like, save, I don't
In
know,
that
whatever
order?
other button.
This is
Subscribe.
definitely
the
going
bell.
to be definitely one of those comments withheld for moderation episodes.
The more buttons you press, the more things you say, the better it will get the point across to me that I was wrong. So
Yeah, you
please
should press
just
all
use
the buttons, like,
yeah,
comment,
every
subscribe,
button.
donate on
even-
Patreon.
even
just
even
to prove a point.
So after you're done pressing all the buttons, then press the button in the top right corner of your screen, the big X. Press that button, and then that's it. You're done.
Be sure to protest all of our opinions exclusively through super chats.
I don't read any arguments against my trains of thought unless they come in colored form.
If it's not a
So
super chat, is it even real?
I you know what? It's
Checkmate.
a bot. Only bots say things for free. Real living people say things with money. So
We'll see
Real
you guys
Americans,
next time.
anyway. Bye.
If you want to ask questions, you can send them in to
You forgot it. You forgot it.
dialoguechoicespodcast@gmail.com. I always want to double check just because I don't want to accidentally fuck up and say it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I never trust
Excuses.
myself entirely.
Excuses.
Hey, I worked in an upholstery shop. The fucking adage is you mark twice. You measure twice, cut once.
Yes.
You always double check
I think-
everything.
I think that's every trade should do that.
Yeah,
I don't think
but
there's
That's
like
also true, yes.
I don't think
Yes.
carpenters should be like, well, I measured once. All right, cutting twice. It's like, wait, no, what?
All right. See you guys next time.
Bye.